Chapter 266. Xian Yanqing followed closely behind. The two of them covered a distance of a few miles in the blink of an eye. 1,000 meters away from the battlefield, the two of them hid in a pile of rocks and watched from afar. Lu Ming saw the figure with messy hair at first glance. Father! Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Although they had not seen each other for more than 8 years and Lu Yuntian's hair and beard were messy and his clothes were tattered, Lu Ming recognized him at first glance. This man was his father, Lu Yuntian. Damn Shifeng sword sect. How dare they torture my father like this? Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent. How can I save my father? Lu Ming began to think. Shifeng sword sect and Yin Moon Empire had more than a dozen martial ancestor realm experts in total. There were even 2 4th-level martial ancestor realm experts who were fighting fiercely. It was impossible to save Lu Yuntian with so many experts. It was impossible to get close. Once they got close, they would be discovered. Even if they could get close, they would not be able to take Lu Yuntian away quietly. Once they were discovered, they would be hunted down by both parties. Facing such a powerful force, they would only die. What should I do? Lu Ming thought anxiously. After more than 8 years, he finally found his father. He was not far away, but he could not save him. At this moment, Lu Ming hated himself. He hated himself for being too weak. I can save your father. Suddenly, Xian Yanqing whispered beside him. What? You can save my father? Really? Lu Ming was shocked and asked. Of course. It's up to you to believe it or not. Forget it. Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at him. No, I believe you. I believe you. If you can really save my father, I'll do whatever you want. Lu Ming said sincerely. Humph, don't think too much. I'm saving your father to prevent you from rushing out on impulse and dying here. How can I fulfill my promise and trample you under my feet? Xian Yanqing snorted coldly. Lu Ming smiled bitterly as he rubbed his nose. How do you want to save my father? As you can see, once they find out that my father has been rescued, they will definitely stop fighting and pursue us with all their might. I know a secret technique called the Heavenly Demon Illusory Technique. It can condense an illusory figure that is exactly the same as your father. If I leave it there, I can secretly replace it and save your father. Xian Yanqing explained. There's actually such a mysterious secret technique. Lu Ming exclaimed. It's just a small trick. You're the one who's ignorant. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming with disdain. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, revealing a trace of complacency. Wait for me here. Before Lu Ming could react, Xian Yanqing's figure floated forward like a ghost. A layer of black mist spread out from her body. In the darkness of the night, it was impossible to distinguish her. Soon, Xian Yanqing was near Lu Yuntian. At this moment, Lu Ming's heartbeat quickened, almost jumping to his throat. In the end, Xian Yanqing silently appeared behind Lu Yuntian. A layer of black mist spread out towards Lu Yuntian. The black mist moved and Lu Yuntian's figure disappeared without a trace. But in the next moment, Lu Yuntian reappeared in the same position. However, no one noticed that Lu Yuntian who appeared later had a dazed look in his eyes. Xian Yanqing floated towards Lu Ming at extreme speed. In 7 to 8 breaths, he reached Lu Ming's side. Leave quickly. My Heavenly Demon Illusory Technique can only last for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, it will disappear and the other party will find out. Xian Yanqing's voice sounded. The black mist dissipated, revealing Xian Yanqing and another figure. If it wasn't Lu Yuntian, who else could it be? Let's go. Lu Ming suppressed the excitement in his heart. He pulled Lu Yuntian and executed the high air steps. Together with Xian Yanqing, they rushed out of the desolate forest at extreme speed. Now was not the time to catch up. They had to leave this place first. At the same time, Lu Ming used the 10,000-mile sound transmission talisman to send a message to the experts of the imperial family. The two of them moved extremely quickly. In the darkness of the night, their figures were almost invisible to the naked eye. Half an hour later, the two of them were 200 miles away. They stopped at a hidden mountain stream. Lu Ming had accidentally discovered this mountain stream when he came here. It was extremely hidden. The message he sent to the experts of the imperial family was to meet here. After all, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were not martial ancestors. They could not fly. If they carried Lu Yuntian, it would not be long before the martial ancestors of the 10 Direction Sword faction caught up with them. They could only rescue Lu Yuntian with the help of the imperial family. The two of you are so young. Could it be that you are also here for the martial royal key? I advise the two of you to give up. Qiu Chongkong did everything he could and did not succeed. The same goes for the two of you. At this moment, Lu Yuntian glanced at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing and said indifferently. However, Xian Yanqing did not say anything. Lu Ming did not say anything either. They only stared blankly at Lu Yuntian. Slowly, tears welled up in the corners of Lu Ming's eyes. He called out softly, "Father." Lu Yuntian's body suddenly trembled. His originally lifeless eyes suddenly lit up. He stared at Lu Ming and said, "You. What did you call me?" "Father, I am Ming Er." "Father." Lu Ming reached out and wiped his face, revealing his delicate and handsome face. He had returned to his original appearance. Looking at Lu Ming's face, Lu Yuntian's body trembled violently. More than 8 years ago, Lu Ming was less than 10 years old. In addition, he was frail and sickly. His appearance and demeanor were very different from now. However, that kind of outline would not change. Also, that kind of feeling between father and son would not disappear. Lu Yuntian immediately recognized Lu Ming. Ming Er, it's really you. It's really you. I'm not dreaming, right? Lu Yuntian stared at Lu Ming. His voice trembled as he kept muttering. His eyes were filled with joy and disbelief. Even in his dreams, he would never have thought that he would meet Lu Ming here. "Father, it's me. Ming Er is here to save you." Lu Ming felt the tip of his nose tingle as tears welled up in his eyes. "Haha, Ming Er, the heavens have eyes. I never thought that I would be able to meet Ming Er in my lifetime. I can die without regrets." Lu Yuntian sighed as tears flowed down his face. A man did not cry easily. That was only when he was sad. "Ming Er, you've grown so big in the blink of an eye. Let me take a good look at you." Lu Yuntian placed his hands on Lu Ming's shoulders and looked at him carefully. "Ming Er, you're finally able to cultivate, and you've even become an incredible expert." Lu Yuntian's face was full of smiles. "Father, your cultivation?" At this moment, Lu Ming realized that there was not a single trace of true qi in Lu Yuntian's body. His body was weak and his vitality was lacking. He was even weaker than an ordinary person. "My cultivation has long been crippled." Lu Yuntian smiled. "Crippled? Who did it?" "Father, was it done by the Shifang sword sect?" Damn it. Lu Ming's eyes were red as he exuded a murderous aura. "Ming Er, don't be rash. It's already a blessing that we can meet. The Shifang sword sect is too strong. Let's just forget about this matter," Lu Yuntian said. However, Lu Ming's heart was twitching. He knew that Lu Yuntian was worried about his safety. He was afraid that he would act rashly and go against the Shifang sword sect. "Father, who is it? Is it the entire Shifang sword sect or someone else? Who is the mastermind?" Chapter 267. Lu Yuntian wanted to let it go, but he couldn't. No matter who it was, he would take revenge 10 times or 100 times over. If he didn't take revenge, was he still a man? If he wanted to hurt Lu Yuntian, he would end up 10 times or 100 times worse than Lu Yuntian. Lu Yuntian pondered for a moment and said, "Ming Er, I can tell you, but you must not be impulsive. This person is not someone you can defeat. Promise me and I will tell you." "Father, I promise you. I will not throw my life away before I am strong enough," Lu Ming said. "All right, I will tell you. This person is..." At that moment, whoosh, whoosh, there was a sound of something breaking through the air. 4 figures rushed in from the mountain stream. The 4 of them were old men with white hair. Their auras were extremely strong and they were all experts above the martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming's eyes moved and 1,000 miles voice transmission talisman appeared in his hand. One of the short and fat old men in gray linen clothes smiled, and a 1,000 miles voice transmission talisman appeared in his hand. Young Master Tianyun, I have heard a lot about you. I didn't expect you to be able to save your father under Qiu Changkong's nose. I am impressed. The short and fat old man cupped his fists. Senior, you are too polite. We were just lucky. This time, we will have to trouble you to send us back to the imperial capital. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, You are welcome. It is a small matter. Let's not delay any longer. We should leave as soon as possible. If the Shifeng sword faction finds us here, we will be in trouble. The short and fat old man said. Lu Ming nodded. At that moment, whoosh, whoosh, there was a sound of something breaking through the air in the distance. A few figures streaked across the sky and disappeared in an instant. Lu Ming saw clearly that those figures were the martial ancestor realm experts of the Shifeng sword faction. The Shifeng sword faction is so fast. The short and fat old man's face changed drastically. Lu Ming's face turned gloomy. The mountain stream was very hidden and was surrounded by trees and weeds. Hence, the Shifeng sword faction did not discover them earlier. However, they would definitely discover them after some time. What should we do? If we go out like this, we will definitely be discovered. If Qiu Changkong arrives, we will not be his match. Another old man said with a solemn expression. Seniors, please take Ming and the others away. Qiu Changkong and the others want me. I'll lure them away. Said Lu Yuntian. No, father. It was not easy to save you. How could I let you fall into the hands of Qiu Changkong and the others? Lu Ming said firmly. Even if he had to die, he wouldn't let Lu Yuntian fall into the hands of the Decimo sword sect and suffer all kinds of torture. With a wave of his hand, Lu Yuntian's tattered clothes fell into Lu Ming's hands. Lu Yuntian's expression changed greatly as he said, Ming don't. The expressions of the others also changed. Seniors, I will go and distract them. You take my father back to the imperial city and hand him over to His Highness the 8th Prince. Lu Ming said to the elders. Ming this definitely won't do. I don't agree. Lu Yuntian let out a low growl. Lu Ming smiled and said, Father, don't worry. Ming will be fine. Let's meet again in the imperial capital. Wait a minute. I'll go with you. On the side, Xian Yanqing suddenly said, You'll go with me? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing. Humph. Don't think too much. I'm just afraid that if you die, I won't be able to fulfill my promise. Also, how are you going to distract the people of the Decimo sword sect alone? Don't forget that your father's cultivation has been destroyed. If you run too fast you will be exposed. I'll take you with me. Xian Yanqing curled his lips. Okay, let's do that. I owe you a favor. Lu Ming said. Tiske, who wants your favor? Xian Yanqing curled his lips in disdain. Father, take care. After saying that, Lu Ming was about to rush out. Ming no, come back. Lu Yuntian growled. However, he had lost his cultivation. How could he catch up with Lu Ming? In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's figures were out of the mountain stream. Out of the mountain stream, Lu Ming put on Lu Yuntian's clothes. I'll take you with me. Xian Yanqing pulled Lu Ming and rushed toward the depths of the desolate wilderness. In order to distract the people of the Decimo sword sect, they naturally had to go to the depths of the desolate wilderness so that Lu Yuntian and the others could escape smoothly. Several miles later. Over here I see them. A loud roar sounded in the desolate wilderness. Whoosh, whoosh. A few figures were chasing after Lu Ming and the rest at high speed. They were several martial artists of the 9th level of the martial master realm. Let's run together. Lu Ming pretended to be pulled by Xian Yanqing. In fact, he was using his movement technique. The two of them ran toward the depths of the desolate wilderness like a gust of wind. The martial artists of the 9th level of the martial master realm behind them could not catch up at all. In the blink of an eye, dozens of miles had passed. Who dares to rob the people of the Decimo sword sect? You're courting death. At this moment, there was an explosion in the sky. A martial arts grandmaster flew in the air and chased after them. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing ignored him. They gritted their teeth and ran. In this way, they ran for hundreds of miles. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, there were 6 figures in the sky. They were the 6 martial arts grandmasters of the Decimo Sword Sect. At this moment, they were getting closer and closer to Lu Ming and the others. No matter how fast their movement techniques were, they were still a little slower than flying in the air. Slowly they were caught up. Whoosh, whoosh. Sword Qi slashed toward Lu Ming and the others. The 2 of them flashed and dodged. A moment later, more than 100 miles passed in the blink of an eye. Die! At this moment, an old man was already approaching Lu Ming and the others. The old man's aura was extremely dense. He was the 4th-level martial arts grandmaster from the Decimo Sword Sect. His face was cold. When he swung his sword, dozens of dazzling sword chi shot out. It completely enveloped the 2 of them. "Oh no, block it!" Lu Ming growled. 4 ancient shields appeared behind him. Xian Yanqing also shouted and slapped out with her palm. Numerous black lotuses appeared behind her to block the attack. Bam! Bam! The ancient shields and the black lotuses exploded one after another. Dense energy shot out in all directions. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing used this energy to rush forward more than 1,000 meters. "You're not Lu Yuntian. We've been fooled." The old man let out an earth-shattering roar. "Haha, it's too late now. My men have already brought Lu Yuntian out of the lonely wilderness. You bunch of idiots." Lu Ming laughed. Damn it, damn it. Lu Yuntian ran away. "Then I'll kill you." The old man roared and continued to chase after Lu Ming and the others. After chasing for a while, he swung his sword again. However, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing used the same trick again. They used the shield and the black lotuses to block and borrow the energy to rush forward. The old man in the sky was so angry that he almost vomited blood. At the same time, he was shocked. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were clearly only 9th-level martial grandmasters. Not only were they unbelievably fast, but their defensive abilities were also terrifyingly high. Although there was a distance between them, they could block his sword chi. This was already terrifying enough. 4th-level martial arts grandmaster is indeed powerful. Chapter 268. In fact, he and Xian Yanqing were both injured and bleeding from the corners of their mouths. The 2 of them gritted their teeth and ran forward. Soon, they ran for another few hundred miles. "Oh no, the blood demon cave is ahead." The elder from the Decimo Sword Sect shouted. "Stop! You'll die if you enter the blood demon cave. Stop them and ask for Lu Yuntian's whereabouts." The others from the Decimo Sword Sect shouted. Not far ahead, there was a thick fog and a bloody mist. It was boundless. It was obvious that it was a place of great danger. Blood Demon Cave? Lu Ming frowned. He had never heard of it. He looked at Xian Yanqing and saw that she was also confused. Forget it. The people from the Decimo Sword Sect seem to be afraid. The more dangerous the place, the easier it is to escape. Lu Ming decided to charge in. He did not stop at all and rushed toward the Blood Demon Cave. Damn it, damn it. Stop them. The elder from the Decimo Sword Sect roared and slashed out sword chi with all his might. However, it only increased the speed of Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Say. Suddenly, an angry roar came from the sky. A glass-like sword light slashed from afar. It was extremely terrifying. Young Master Chong Kong. The people from the Decimo Sword Sect shouted excitedly. Oh no! Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's expressions changed drastically. Although the sword chi was still far away, its power surpassed that of the elder who was in the 4th realm of the martial ancestor realm. Without hesitation, Lu Ming unleashed his bloodline. At the same time, he condensed 4 ancient shields and struck out with his palm. Human Path Palm. A huge palm print blasted forward with the power of wind and fire. Xian Yanqing covered her body with black lotuses and struck out 3 black palm prints at the same time. Heavenly Demon Palm Print. Whoosh! The sword light arrived in an instant and clashed with the Human Dao Palm and Heavenly Demon Palm. The instant sword. Qiu Chongkong's sword aura was resplendent. The sparkling and translucent glow shone even brighter, illuminating the entire sky. Lu Ming's and Xian Yanqing's palm prints were swept away and continued to hit their defensive martial techniques. Bang! Bang! Two violent explosions rang out. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's bodies shook violently. They let out muffled groans and spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their bodies were sent flying backwards, crossing 1,000 meters in an instant. Enter the Blood Domain Devil Cave. Lu Ming growled. Together with Xian Yanqing, the two of them once again struck out with their palms. The powerful force pushed the two of them back. In the next moment, the two of them disappeared into the fog of the Blood Domain Devil Cave, leaving no trace behind. Whoosh! Whoosh! 6 figures appeared and stopped outside the Blood Domain Devil Cave. Immediately after, a sword light flashed and Qiu Changkong's figure appeared. However, his face was extremely gloomy as he stared at the Blood Domain Devil Cave in front of him. "Young Master Changkong, don't be rash," an old man shouted. He was afraid that Qiu Changkong would rush in on impulse. The Blood Domain Devil Cave was a legendary land of death. Unless one was a martial king, they would only die if they rushed in. No one below the martial king realm had ever come out alive. Qiu Changkong was silent for a while. In the end, he did not rush in. "Leave a few people here to guard. If those two really come out, kill them without mercy," Qiu Changkong instructed. "Yes." The others bowed and replied. "Humph, Lu Yuntan, no matter who saved you, no matter where you are hiding, I will find you." Qiu Changkong's voice was unusually cold, like a ruthless sword. Immediately after, Qiu Changkong stepped out and disappeared in the blink of an eye. 2 people followed Qiu Changkong, leaving 4 people to guard the place. When Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing rushed into the Blood Domain Devil Cave, they felt dizzy. When they stabilized, they realized that they were in a desolate land. Not a single blade of grass grew on the ground. A blood-red mist floated in the air. When they looked around, they realized that they could not find their direction. They did not know where they came from. "This time I implicated you." Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and sighed. "Don't think too much. My goal is to trample you under my feet," Xian Yanqing said coldly. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Xian Yanqing's temper was too strange. He could not understand it at all. However, no matter what, it was all thanks to Xian Yanqing. Otherwise, it would not have been so easy to save Lu Yuntian. "Let's find a place to recuperate," Lu Ming said. Previously, they had blocked the attacks of the martial ancestor realm 4th realm expert and Qiu Changkong's sword. The two of them had suffered serious injuries. "Humph!" Xian Yanqing snorted coldly. He randomly chose a direction and walked forward. Lu Ming followed him. Previously, although the desolate land was desolate, there were still living creatures. However, this place was absolutely silent. The ground was reddish-brown and there was not even a blade of withered grass. It was a barren land. The two of them walked forward for dozens of miles. Their surroundings were the same. There was no direction and no living creatures. They did not know where the way out was. "Let's recuperate first," Lu Ming said. This time, Xian Yanqing did not refute. The two of them sat down and circulated their qi to recuperate. However, in the next moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes. This was because he felt that there was no spiritual energy in the world. There was only a violent and ferocious aura. At the side, Xian Yanqing was also bewildered. Then, the two of them took out spiritual crystals and began to absorb the spiritual energy in the spiritual crystals to recuperate. After half a day, the two of them had recovered a lot from their injuries and continued to walk forward. At this time, the two of them found that the blood-red mist around them was much thicker than before. The visibility of the surroundings was greatly reduced. With their cultivation, they could only see a few hundred meters away. Any further and it would be blurry. The two of them raised their guard and continued to move forward. As time passed, the blood-red mist became thicker and thicker. The visibility of the two of them dropped from a few hundred meters to 100 meters, then 80 meters, 60 meters, 50 meters. Roar. At this time, a roar came from afar. The two of them became serious. There are living creatures in the mist? They had not encountered one for so long. Now that they had suddenly appeared, it was very strange. The two of them were highly focused. They did not continue to move forward. Instead, they stopped and paid attention to their surroundings. The mist became thicker and thicker. The blood-red mist was like dark red blood. Roar! Roar! There were more and more roars in the surroundings. They did not know how many there were. Roar! Suddenly, a roar came from beside the two of them. A murderous aura spread out and the blood-red mist surged. A pale white claw grabbed at Xueqi. The claw was like a human palm, but the fingernails were very long and as sharp as blades. The arm was covered with green hair. Xueqi's expression changed. He waved his hand and a black lotus appeared. The petals flew out and hit the pale white claw. Clang! Clang! The black lotus petals hit the pale white claw. There was a sound of metal colliding and sparks flew in all directions. It was not cut off. Chapter 269. The two of them looked even more serious. This blood demon lair was too strange. The two of them focused and observed their surroundings. Roar! Behind them, a pale white arm covered in green hair grabbed at Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming pulled out his spear and hit the hand. With a bang, Lu Ming saw a figure being sent flying. Roars were heard all around. Some were filled with ferocity, while others were like painful screams. Whoosh! Blood mist surged as a tall figure pounced at Lu Ming. Before it arrived, the stench of blood filled the air. This is... Lu Ming finally saw the monster's full appearance. It was a humanoid figure, 2 heads taller than Lu Ming. Its body was covered in green hair, its eyes were blood red, and it had sharp teeth. Is this a blood zombie? Lu Ming's heart stirred. He was somewhat shocked. The so-called blood zombies were a type of zombie formed after a cultivator died in battle. However, their bodies were invulnerable and they were abnormally strong. Without thinking, the spear pierced forward like a rainbow. Puff! The spear pierced through the blood zombie's body, but Lu Ming was not happy. He felt that the blood zombie's body was like an Iron Man. Although he had pierced through the blood zombie's body, it took a lot of effort. Buzz! The spear shook and the blood zombie was sent flying. However, the roars continued and more blood zombies charged at the two of them. Some of the blood zombies even started killing each other. Back off! Lu Ming shouted. The two of them rushed back, but the situation was the same. Blood zombies charged at them without fear of death. They were filled with ferocious aura as they pounced at the two of them. These blood zombies were very strong. The weakest one was a 7th or 8th grade martial master. The stronger ones were definitely at the peak of 9th grade martial master, and were even close to a martial ancestor. The key was that there were too many of them and they were very difficult to kill. The two of them immediately fell into a passive situation. Great demonic palm. Xueqi's body was filled with black true qi. Black lotuses danced around his body. He waved both of his palms and black palm prints flew out, knocking away one blood zombie after another. Lu Ming's spear danced like a fiery dragon. With a sweep, 5 or 6 blood zombies were sent flying. However, even more blood zombies pounced on them. The two of them fought and charged at the same time. However, there seemed to be no end to the blood zombies as they swarmed in from all directions. The battle continued like this, and in the blink of an eye, more than an hour had passed. The two of them had lost a lot of their true qi. At this time, they were already drenched in sweat. I can't go on like this, I'll definitely die from exhaustion. Lu Ming's mind raced. The fog is thinning. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He noticed that the blood-red mist around him was fading, and his visibility was slowly increasing. He could vaguely see that he was surrounded by blood zombies. Most of the blood zombies were actually fighting and tearing at each other. Perhaps the blood zombies will retreat if the mist is thinning. Lu Ming guessed. When they first entered, the blood mist was not thick, and there were no blood zombies. Later on, the blood zombies appeared as the blood mist thickened. Lu Ming guessed that the appearance of the blood zombies had something to do with the blood mist. As time passed, the mist slowly faded. Lu Ming and Xueqi seemed to have seen hope. However, the next moment, roar! An earth-shattering roar was heard. Heaven and earth shook, and the earth trembled. In the distance, an unimaginably thick blood qi pervaded the air. Lu Ming took a closer look, and his heart began to beat rapidly. That was not blood qi. It was clearly a huge monster. The huge monster was at least 100 meters tall. It was running wildly on the ground like a mountain. It looked like a huge lion. However, its body seemed to be made of blood, and it emitted a strong smell of blood. It opened its mouth and roared. Its voice shook the heavens, and an aura as deep as the sea spread out. Then, it opened its mouth and inhaled. One by one, the blood zombies were sucked into its mouth and disappeared. Blood demon. Is this the legendary blood demon? Xian Yanqing's voice trembled slightly. Not only her voice, but Lu Ming also felt that her body was trembling. Let's go. Lu Ming pulled Xian Yanqing's little hand and ran with large strides. The blood demon was too powerful. Its aura was as deep as the sea and unfathomable. There was no way they could fight it. The two of them ran wildly. The blood zombies on the side seemed to be extremely shocked. They gave up attacking Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing and ran away. Roar! Heaven and earth shook. The blood demon's huge body was running toward Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. No way! Lu Ming felt bitter. He ran with all his might, but his speed was still much slower than the blood demon's. In the blink of an eye, the blood demon was close to the two of them. Its blood-red eyes stared at the two of them. Am I going to die here today? Lu Ming could not help but think. No, I can't die. I just saved Dad. I haven't avenged him yet. I can't die. Lu Ming roared. His eyes were filled with unwavering determination, and his whole body was highly focused. Human path palm. Lu Ming roared and struck with his palm. This palm pushed Lu Ming's state to the peak. Boom! A huge palm print was formed. The palm print was almost solid, and it was twice the size of the previous ones. At this moment of life and death, Lu Ming's human path palm broke through and reached the third level. Previously, Lu Ming had cultivated bitterly in the Dun Cave and Divine Wind Valley for a few months before breaking through to the second level. Now, at this moment of life and death, he broke through again. The third level of the human path palm was unprecedentedly powerful. It struck toward the blood demon like an avalanche. Roar! The blood demon roared. There was a hint of disdain in its eyes. It opened its mouth and spat out a ray of blood-red light toward the human path palm. Puff! Like a punctured bubble, the human path palm that had reached the third level collapsed. The difference in strength was too big. It was not something that could be compensated with a single martial technique. Roar! The blood demon roared and pounced toward the two of them. It opened its bloody mouth and a terrifying suction force was produced. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing could not resist at all. They were sucked into the blood demon's huge mouth and disappeared. Roar! The blood demon roared in satisfaction and continued to attack the blood zombies. Grab them! Once they entered the blood demon's mouth, Lu Ming grabbed Xian Yanqing's small hand. The two of them were pulled down by the strong suction force. Don't let go of me! At this moment, Xian Yanqing's small face was pale. Her large eyes were filled with fear. She grabbed Lu Ming's hand tightly. At this moment, she was like an ordinary little girl. She was so fragile that she needed to be protected. Hold on. Don't give up until the last moment. Lu Ming shouted. His true qi surged as he tried to break free from the suction force. However, it was useless. The suction force was too strong. After a few breaths, the two of them landed on a soft place. The surroundings were filled with a thick blood-red mist. This blood-red mist had a terrifying corrosive force. When the two of them landed, they felt a burning pain on their skin. The two of them immediately circulated their true qi to protect their bodies. However, it was not very effective. Their true qi was being consumed rapidly. The two of them had gone through a huge battle and did not have much true qi left. Before long, their true qi was completely consumed. Chapter 270. Puff! Xian Yanqing suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body swayed and her face turned pale. Hold on! Lu Ming roared. However, Xian Yanqing's body swayed and her eyes were unfocused. She shouted, Lu Ming, I'm going to trample you under my feet. After saying that, her body went limp and she fell unconscious. Lu Ming was so angry that he wanted to laugh. This woman was still thinking about this at this time. Sizzle! The corrosive mist around them burned and stung their skin. Furthermore, the mist would seep into one's skin and cause one to become drowsy. Am I really going to die here this time? Lu Ming thought to himself, but he was unwilling to accept this. However, his body was getting weaker and weaker, and his mind was getting weaker and weaker. I have to hold on. I have to get out alive. I have to reach the peak of martial arts. Lu Ming roared in his heart and tried his best to fight back. It was not his character to give in. However, this mist was too strange and too strong. It was not going to work even if he did not give in. Just as Lu Ming was about to fall unconscious, the world suddenly changed. After a moment of dizziness, Lu Ming realized that he had appeared in another place. Temple of Paragon. This is the Temple of Paragon. Lu Ming was surprised and confused. Wasn't the Temple of Paragon not allowed to enter when he was in danger? He had tried many times before, but it was useless. He did not expect to enter automatically now. However, Lu Ming was surprised when he looked up. He realized that he was not on the first 3 platforms, but on the highest platform. Below him was a long flight of stairs that led downwards. On the other side was a palace. It was exactly the same as the one he saw on the first 3 platforms. Xian Yanqing was lying next to him, still unconscious. Why am I at the highest point? Lu Ming was surprised and looked into the palace. The door of the palace was open, and it was dark inside. He could vaguely see a figure sitting cross-legged there. Suddenly that figure moved. He actually stood up and walked out. Tap tap tap. With the sound of footsteps, Lu Ming's heart started beating rapidly. It had been more than 2 years since he had obtained the Temple of Paragon. Lu Ming was extremely curious about the palace and the figures in it. He had always wanted to take a look, but unfortunately, he couldn't reach the top at all, so he could only give up. Now, could he finally get what he wanted? Step. Light footsteps were heard, and a figure walked out. It was a middle-aged man wearing a red battle robe with a sun embroidered on it. His body was extremely tall and majestic, with the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. When he opened his eyes, it was as if he could see 2 suns floating in them. The aura emanating from his body was as deep as the vast universe. Just by standing there casually, he had an aura that could swallow everything and look down on the world. Facing him, Lu Ming felt like he was facing the entire world. But the next moment, the middle-aged man's aura disappeared, and he looked like an ordinary person. He looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. Lu Ming was stunned for a while. Then he stepped forward and cupped his fists. Junior Lu Ming greets Senior. You don't have to introduce yourself. I've been watching you for a few years. The middle-aged man's voice was filled with dominance. As expected, Lu Ming thought. He then said, Senior, thank you for saving me this time. Don't be too happy. I didn't want to save you, but I didn't want to waste a drop of 9 dragons' blood essence. The middle-aged man smiled casually. Following that, he sized up Lu Ming carefully and said, Are you very curious and want to know who I am? Where exactly is this place? That's right. Senior, please tell me. Lu Ming said. He was indeed very curious. His achievements today were mostly thanks to the Temple of Paragon. All right, I can tell you, the middle-aged man said. Then, he put his hands behind his back and walked back and forth, as if he was deep in thought. After a while the middle-aged man said, I'm Supreme 9 Sons. What? Lu Ming's body and mind trembled. His eyes widened, revealing a look of disbelief. You're Supreme 9 Sons from Emperor Heaven Divine Palace? Lu Ming asked. Besides me, is there a second Supreme 9 Sons in the world? The middle-aged man said coldly. Lu Ming gasped a breath of cold air. He was horrified. Supreme 9 Sons was too powerful. It was not an exaggeration to say that his name shook the world. Lu Ming had heard of Supreme 9 Sons before, but to him, Supreme 9 Sons was just a legend. Supreme 9 Sons came from Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. He was the eldest disciple of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's Emperor Yi. His cultivation was earth-shattering and unparalleled. He was called Supreme 9 Sons, and his cultivation was very close to martial Emperor realm. He was the invincible god of war of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Such a person could destroy Emperor Yun's 36 empires with a flick of his finger. Why would he appear here? Why would he hide in such a palace? Supreme Nine's son seemed to see Lu Ming's doubts. He sighed and said, "What you see now is not my real body. I'm already dead. This is just a wisp of my soul." "What? You're already dead?" Lu Ming found it hard to believe. With Supreme Nine's son's cultivation and combat strength, who could kill him? Even a martial emperor might not be able to kill him. "That's right. I'm already dead. The one who killed me is my master, the ruler of Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, Martial Emperor Yi." Supreme Nine's son said coldly. Lu Ming was shocked and dumbfounded. Supreme Nine's son was killed by his master, Martial Emperor Yi. How could this be? "You must be very surprised, right?" Supreme Nine's son said with a cold smile. "That's right. It's quite surprising." Lu Ming did not hide the truth. "Ha ha ha. What's there to be surprised about? That old bastard De is just a treacherous person. He can do anything." Supreme Nine's sons laughed angrily. His voice was filled with hatred and overflowing killing intent. "Brat, do you want to know why that old bastard De killed me? And why you awakened the Nine Dragons' bloodline?" Supreme Nine's son said. "Nine Dragons' bloodline? Is my bloodline called the Nine Dragons' bloodline? But what are Nine Dragons?" Lu Ming was very confused. Of course, he nodded repeatedly. "All right, then I'll tell you everything," Supreme Nine's son said. Supreme Nine's son said. Then, he began to explain the entire story to the other party in detail. Nine dragons were extremely ancient and tyrannical life forms. Legend had it that they were a type of true dragon. However, they were different from true dragons. They were mutated true dragons. True dragons had 5 claws. They were called 5-clawed true dragons. However, 9 dragons had 9 claws. They were extremely terrifying and tyrannical. Ordinary true dragons were nothing compared to them. It was said that since ancient times, only one Nine Dragon had appeared in the world. There was an ancient forbidden land in the divine desolate continent. It was said to be the Nine Dragon Ruins. It was extremely dangerous there. Supreme Nine's sons used his powerful strength and horrifying bloodline to enter the Nine Dragon Ruins and obtain some things. Chapter 271. Although Supremacy Jiuyang had come out of the Nine Dragons' historical remnant with 2 drops of blood, he had been injured. However, he had never thought that his teacher, Emperor De, would suddenly attack him and severely injure him. Emperor De even took away his 9 sons' blood. Moreover, one of the 2 drops of 9 dragon essence blood was taken by Emperor De. However, Emperor De had underestimated the 9 sons' sovereign. The 9 sons' sovereign's 9 sons' bloodline was a divine bloodline. It was extremely mysterious. At the critical moment, the 9 sons' sovereign had self-destructed his body and bloodline and escaped with the divine palace. At the same time, he had also taken a drop of blood. After that, he had turned the Temple of Supremacy into a bronze pendant to hide from Emperor De. After dozens of years, it had fallen into Lu Yuntian's hands. Ha ha ha, now I finally understand. De, that hypocrite, took me in as a disciple and taught me martial arts. It was all a scheme from the very start. From the very start, he planned to take away my 9 sons' bloodline. He wanted to use my 9 sons' bloodline to attack that supreme realm. Despicable, treacherous, the most treacherous person in the world is De. Supremacy Jiuyang shouted hysterically. His eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. "You were robbed of your 9 sons' blood?" whispered Lu Ming. He looked at Supremacy Jiuyang and couldn't help feeling pity for him. Supremacy Jiuyang had gone through the same thing as him. The only difference was that Supremacy Jiuyang had been robbed of his 9 sons' blood by someone he respected, while he had been robbed of his 9 sons' blood by someone he loved. "Kid, you should know by now that the reason why you were able to reawaken your bloodline after it was stolen was because I fused that drop of 9 dragons' blood essence into your body. I did that because your experiences were similar to mine. I wanted to nurture you and make you a peerless genius, a peerless cultivator. That's why I set up stairs in the Temple of Supremacy so that you could grow up step by step. Unfortunately, you disappointed me. You're talented, but you're reckless. Do you know that you almost died just now?" Supreme Nine Yang hollered, answering Lu Ming's questions that had been bothering him. Lu Ming came to a sudden realization, but he smiled bitterly. The reason he had fallen into such a desperate situation was entirely because he wanted to save his father. If he could do it all over again, he would still do the same. Little boy, you can only take refuge in the Temple of Paragon this time. Don't do it again. The Temple of Paragon isn't a place for you to take refuge. If you don't face life and death situations, how can you become a peerless cultivator? The inscription formation of the Temple of Paragon won't disappear. You won't be able to enter when it's a matter of life and death. Supreme Nine Yang said with bright eyes. Lu Ming suddenly realized that every time there was a great battle, he couldn't enter the Temple of Paragon because Supreme Nine Yang didn't allow him to. Lu Ming nodded. This was exactly what he wanted. Every peerless powerhouse had been tempered by constant life and death situations. Brat, now that you've fused with the blood essence of the 9 dragons and awakened the bloodline of the 9 dragons, it's incomparably miraculous. You can continuously evolve, and even I don't know how far you'll reach. It can be said that your future is limitless. Supreme Nine Yang said. This is all thanks to Senior's help. Lu Ming cupped his fists and bowed. He couldn't help but look happy. The 9 dragons were even stronger than the true dragon. Now that Lu Ming knew about it, he was naturally happy. Supreme Nine Yang glanced at Lu Ming and sneered, "Little boy, don't be happy too early. Soon, you'll be in big trouble." Lu Ming was stunned and asked, "Senior, what do you mean?" "Back then, I obtained 2 drops of the 9 dragons' blood essence. One of them fell into Di Yi's hands. With Di Yi's cultivation, he must have refined the 9 dragons' blood essence. The 9 dragons' blood essence can sense each other. Your cultivation is still weak now, so Di Yi can't sense you. According to my estimation, once you break through to the martial ancestor realm, Di Yi will be able to sense you instantly. At that time, you'll be robbed of your bloodline again." Supreme Nine Yang said. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. There was such a thing? What kind of person was Martial Emperor Di Yi? He was a peak expert of the divine desolate continent, an overlord. If he really wanted to kill him, he could kill him tens of thousands of times with just a breath. If Martial Emperor Di Yi discovered the 9 dragons' bloodline in his body, he would definitely die. No one would be able to save him. Could it be that he had to stay in the Martial Grand Master realm for the rest of his life and not break through to the Martial Ancestor realm? No, that was impossible. As a cultivator, the goal of cultivation was to continuously break through and become stronger. If he couldn't break through, it would be worse than killing him. What should I do? Is there no other way? Lu Ming thought quickly. Suddenly, he saw a faint smile on Supreme Nine Yang's face. His eyes lit up as he cupped his fists and asked, "Senior, do you have a way?" "I do have a way, but why should I help you?" Supreme Nine Yang smiled faintly. Lu Ming was stunned. Indeed, why would Supreme Nine Yang help him? "Actually, I can help you as long as you agree to one condition," Supreme Nine Yang suddenly said. Lu Ming's achievements today are all thanks to Senior. "Senior, if you have any conditions, as long as Lu Ming can fulfill them, I will not refuse." Lu Ming said. "All right, my condition is that you have to kill Di Yi and avenge me." Supreme Nine Yang said word by word with a cold murderous intent in his eyes. "Kill Martial Emperor Di Yi?" Lu Ming was shocked. He then said with a wry smile, "Senior, are you kidding me? With my cultivation, even if Martial Emperor Di Yi stood there and let me kill him, I still wouldn't be able to do it." It was not that Lu Ming was not confident, but the gap between them was too big, unimaginable. "I'm not asking you to kill Di Yi now. I want you to promise me that you will kill Di Yi in the future after your cultivation has improved," Supreme Nine Yang said. "In the future?" Lu Ming muttered. "What? You're not confident? Then I've misjudged you. But let me tell you, you and Di Yi will have a battle in the end. It's unavoidable since you merged with the 9 dragons' blood essence. Even if you don't look for him, he will look for you. It's only a matter of time," Supreme Nine Yang said with a cold smile. "Senior, I promise you that I will kill Di Yi one day," Lu Ming suddenly said in a firm and resolute voice. Supreme Nine Yang's eyes glittered, then he burst out laughing. All right, I believe you. Let me tell you, if you can kill DE and take the other drop of his 9 dragons' blood essence, you will gain endless benefits. You can even break through the martial emperor realm and enter a supreme realm. Supreme Nine Yang was extremely excited after Lu Ming agreed. He had set up the stairs in the past few years to train Lu Ming, hoping that he could avenge him in the future. Well, Senior, you know that DE is a martial emperor. It's too difficult to reach that realm. Do you have any benefits for me? For example, divine-level martial skills, divine-level pills, or divine weapons. Just give me a few dozen of them. Chapter 272. Supreme Nine Yang was someone who was very close to becoming a martial emperor. His battle prowess was even more horrifying. To put it bluntly, a single hair from such a person would be extremely useful. It would not be Lu Ming's character not to take advantage of him. Supreme Nine Yang's eyelids twitched, and his lips trembled. Divine martial techniques? Divine medicinal pills? Dozens of them? What did Lu Ming think divine martial techniques were? Cabbage? Senior, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Why are your lips trembling? Lu Ming asked in surprise. No, nothing. Supreme Nine Yang took a deep breath to calm himself down. He continued, regarding this, I might have to disappoint you. I escaped with a strand of my soul. After I came out, I only brought this temple of supremacy and a drop of 9 dragon essence blood. As for the things I placed on the first few platforms, I obtained them by accident over the years after I escaped. Also, there is nothing on the platforms at the back. I purposely placed a box on each platform to motivate you to work hard. Supreme Nine Yang said somewhat awkwardly. The platforms at the back are empty? Lu Ming was flabbergasted. He was speechless. After a while he probed. There are no treasures, but there should be martial techniques. Senior, as Supreme Nine Yang, you should know a lot of martial techniques, right? Can you teach me a few? Cough cough. Supremacy Jiu Yang coughed a few times and said, I'm afraid that won't do. DE knows all the martial skills that I've practiced. As long as you practice the martial skills that I've practiced, DE will be able to sense it. A martial emperor is too strong. Lu Ming was completely speechless. So, he agreed to help him take revenge and kill DE, but there were no benefits at all. Sigh, but don't be disappointed. I can't give you what I've practiced, but I can still teach you what I haven't practiced. Back then, I didn't only bring back 2 drops of 9 dragons' blood essence from the 9 dragons' remnants. I also brought back a cultivation method and a martial skill. That cultivation technique is the true battle dragon art that you're cultivating. That's a divine-level cultivation technique. There's also another martial skill that's compatible with the true battle dragon art. It's called the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps. That's also a divine-level martial skill. Supreme Nine Yang felt a little embarrassed and hurriedly said, What? Is there really a divine tier martial skill? Lu Ming's heart trembled. His eyes emitted a resplendent light, like 2 bright suns. Earlier, when he had mentioned deity-level martial skills and deity-level medicinal pellets, he had simply demanded an exorbitant price. He had never imagined that Supreme Nine Sons would actually possess deity-level martial skills. It was a divine-level martial skill, and from its name, it seemed to be related to the 9 dragons. Supreme Nine Sons waved his hand, and a secret manual flew out from the hall. The secret manual was made of neither gold nor jade, and it was impossible to tell what material it was made of. This is the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps. According to my speculation, it should be a martial skill created by the 9 dragons. Its power is extremely terrifying. Even I haven't practiced it before. You're lucky. Supreme Nine Sons handed the secret manual to Lu Ming. Lu Ming hurriedly took it from him and opened it to read happily. As soon as he opened it, it was as if he saw a real dragon with 9 claws walking in the sky. A terrifying aura was applied to Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming felt intense pain all over his body, as if he was about to be torn apart. At that moment, Supreme Nine Sons waved his hand and closed the secret manual of the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps. The terrifying aura then disappeared. Kid, if your cultivation isn't strong enough, don't open it. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Supreme Nine Sons said coldly. Lu Ming broke out in cold sweat. This is just a secret manual. Isn't it too terrifying? Kid, this manual contains a hint of the aura of the 9 dragons. Ordinary people would not be able to withstand it. Furthermore, with your current cultivation and the strength of your flesh, it's impossible for you to practice the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps. You'll have to wait until your cultivation has reached the first layer martial ancestor realm, and your flesh has reached the 4th grade before you can practice it. Supreme Nine Sons warned. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming carefully put away the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps secret manual. However, he sighed in his heart. This requirement was too high. Lu Ming believed that it wouldn't take long for him to break through to the martial ancestor realm. However, it wouldn't be that easy to reach the 4th grade physical body. Although Lu Ming had reached the complete 3rd grade physical body, it was still very difficult for him to break through to the 4th grade physical body. First, he had to have a technique that could allow him to cultivate to the 4th grade physical body. At the same time, he also needed an opportunity. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to break through in a few years. I have to meet these conditions as soon as possible. He had a divine grade martial skill in his hand but couldn't cultivate it. This feeling wasn't good at all. All right. Next, I'll help you conceal the aura of the 9 dragons' blood essence. Sit down, relax your mind, and control the bloodline to appear. Supreme Nine Sons instructed. Lu Ming nodded. Then, he sat down cross-legged. His body glowed. The spirit-devouring bloodline, no, it should be called the 9 dragons' bloodline, appeared and quietly floated above Lu Ming's head. Shouted Supremacy 9 Sons. His body emitted a boundless radiance. Then, a sun appeared above his head. However, after a few seconds, another sun floated up. In the next minute, a total of 9 suns floated above Supreme 9 Sons. The 9 suns floated around Supreme 9 Sons like the god of the sun, suppress, seal. Supreme 9 Sons shouted. The 9 suns emitted endless light. Then, the endless light surged toward the 9 dragons' bloodline. It covered the 9 dragons' bloodline and formed a seal, sealing the aura of the 9 dragons' bloodline. Half an hour later, the 9 suns around Supreme 9 Sons suddenly disappeared. Supreme 9 Sons trembled and almost fell to the ground. Senior, are you all right? Lu Ming quickly got up and supported Supreme 9 Sons. Supreme 9 Sons' face was pale. His body became much fainter, as if he could disappear at any time. Sealing the 9 dragons' bloodline requires a huge amount of energy. After I seal it for you, you will soon fall into a deep sleep. I don't know when you will wake up. Supreme 9 Sons let out a long sigh. Senior, Lu Ming is unable to repay Senior's kindness. Lu Ming bowed to Supreme 9 Sons sincerely. You only need to avenge me. Also, there is one more thing that I need to tell you. With my strength, I can help you seal the aura of the 9 dragons' bloodline. However, I can only seal it for 10 years. After 10 years, my sealing power will disappear. At that time, Martial Emperor De will be able to sense you. Therefore, you only have 10 years. In these 10 years, you must continue to break through and grow. At the very least, you must have the ability to escape from De. Otherwise, everything will be over. Supreme 9 Sons said solemnly. 10 years, only 10 years? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. What's wrong? Are you not confident? Supreme 9 Sons said. Of course 10 years is enough. Lu Ming's eyes flickered with a hint of battle intent. All right. Now, I will subdue the blood demon. After all, you are still inside its body. Martial Emperor 9 Sons said in a low voice. His body emitted a ripple and disappeared. Then, his hand glowed and a blood-red badge appeared. He gave the badge to Lu Ming and said, "This is the demon suppression badge. Use it to control the blood demon." All right, I've said everything that needs to be said. From now on, you will have to rely on yourself. After saying that, Supreme 9 Yang staggered into the hall. Senior, if Lu Ming succeeds in his cultivation in the future, I will definitely find a way to save you. Lu Ming said. Save me? Even martial emperors can't do that. Chapter 273. Looking at the desolate back view of Supreme Nine Yang, Lu Ming sighed. A supreme being of a generation, a powerful figure who dominated the world, had ended up in this state. It made one sigh. 10 years, 10 years, Lu Ming whispered. It was almost impossible for him to grow to the point where he could compete with Martial Emperor De in 10 years. The difference was too big. His cultivation was only at the 9th level of the Martial Grandmaster realm. Above the Martial Grandmaster realm were the Martial Ancestor realm, Martial King realm, Spiritual God realm, and Martial Emperor realm. There was a difference of 6 major realms. The difference was too big. No matter how difficult it is, I have to try my best. If I don't try, how will I know it won't work? Lu Ming had a determined look in his eyes. Then, he looked at Xian Yanqing, who was still unconscious. I can't let anyone know about Supreme Nine Yang. Who knows if Martial Emperor De will find out. I'd better leave this place first. Lu Ming thought. Then, he walked over and grabbed Xian Yanqing. With a thought, they disappeared from the Temple of Paragon. Roar! The blood demon's roar was earth-shattering. Once out of the Temple of Paragon, Lu Ming realized that they were not in the blood demon's stomach, but on its back. The blood demon felt 2 people on its back and was furious. It roared continuously. Blood chi surged and swept toward Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Demon Suppression Token. Lu Ming waved his hand and the Demon Suppression Token appeared. It floated in the air and an invisible wave spread out, surging toward the blood demon. Roar! The blood demon roared as if it was terrified. It let out a low cry and knelt down in the end. It was obedient. Lu Ming was pleasantly surprised. At the same time, he was amazed by Supreme Nine Yang's means. Supreme Nine Sons was only a remnant soul. Furthermore, in order to help him seal the 9-dragon bloodline, he was already at the end of his rope. Under such circumstances, he could casually condense a demon-suppressing token and make the blood demon submit to him. The strength of his methods was already inconceivable. Let's continue. Lu Ming patted the blood demon. Roar! Blood demon growled and continued to run forward. The blood demon was obviously the overlord of this area. With him leading the way, this area was unimpeded. Am I dead? Suddenly, Xian Yanqing shouted and jumped up from the blood demon's back. He looked around with his big black eyes. The next moment, he saw Lu Ming and couldn't help but cry out. Lu Ming, you're dead too? We went to the netherworld together? It's all your fault. Unfortunately, I still have unfulfilled wishes. Xian Yanqing closed his eyes and sighed. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. He was stunned for a while before he said, Who said I'm dead? I'm still alive and kicking. You're not dead? Then why are you with me? I know, did you capture my soul? What are you trying to do? You didn't even let my soul go. You're a despicable, shameless, perverted pervert. As soon as Xian Yanqing heard that Lu Ming was not dead, he began to scold him. His body kept shrinking backward. This. Lu Ming was completely dumbfounded. He stared at Xian Yanqing in a daze. Xian Yanqing also opened his eyes wide and looked at Lu Ming vigilantly. After staring for a while, he realized that something was wrong. He looked around and shouted, I'm not dead either. Oh no, why are we on the blood demon's back? Hurry up and find a way to escape from here. Escape. If you want to escape, then escape. Lu Ming sat there calmly, his face calm and relaxed. You're not escaping? Xian Yanqing looked around and felt that something was wrong. Of course not. With this blood demon leading the way, why do we need to escape? Lu Ming said indifferently. Blood demon leading the way? Wait, what's going on? Why isn't the blood demon attacking us? Xian Yanqing realized that the blood demon had been traveling obediently. It was completely different from the previous time when it attacked them ferociously. Don't worry, I've already subdued it. Lu Ming said indifferently. Subdued by you? How is that possible? How can you subdue this blood demon? Xian Yanqing asked a series of questions. She wouldn't believe it even if she was beaten to death. This blood demon was extremely ferocious and powerful. She estimated that even if it wasn't at the level of a martial king, it wasn't far from it. How could Lu Ming subdue it? How was that possible? However, in the next moment, her beautiful eyes suddenly widened. Lu Ming said lightly, "Little blood, stop." Then, the blood demon stopped and let out a low roar as if to please Lu Ming. "Little blood, lie down." With another light sentence, the blood demon obediently lay down on the ground. Xian Yanqing's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Her small mouth was opened so wide that a duck egg could be stuffed in. Her beautiful face was filled with disbelief. The blood demon had actually been subdued by Lu Ming. Moreover, it was the submissive type. Most importantly, what did Lu Ming call the blood demon? Little blood? Xian Yanqing felt that her mind was in a mess. "Haha, how is it? Don't you admire me? Do you have the urge to marry me?" Seeing Xian Yanqing's expression, Lu Ming felt extremely comfortable. He laughed loudly and had a smug expression on his face. His smile was so wide that it almost reached his ears. "Promise you, my ass." "Humph. Who knows what despicable method you used to subdue this blood demon?" "Humph. Despicable, shameless, obscene guy. Sooner or later, I will trample you under my feet." Xian Yanqing snorted coldly and glared at Lu Ming. Then she turned around and did not look at Lu Ming. However, she was still shocked and curious about Lu Ming. She did not know how Lu Ming had subdued the blood demon. Lu Ming smiled. He knew Xian Yanqing's temper and did not bother to argue with her. Then, the blood demon continued on its way. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing sat cross-legged on the blood demon's back and circulated their qi to heal their injuries. About half a day later, the scenery in front of them changed. In front of them, a huge semicircular light curtain enveloped them. Lu Ming and the others were inside this semicircular light curtain. This was a huge inscription array. At this time, Lu Ming knew that the blood demon cave was inside a huge inscription array. No wonder they could not tell the direction as soon as they entered the array. The only difference was that there was a stone door here. This stone door was huge and tightly closed. It was embedded in the light curtain. This stone door might be the exit. Lu Ming guessed. He ordered the blood demon to rush forward. Roar! Roar! Suddenly, two shocking roars came from the huge stone door. The stone door shone and two huge exotic beasts appeared in front of the stone door. These two exotic beasts were huge and emitted a blood-red glow. As soon as they appeared, they stared at Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming's face changed and he shouted, "Little blood, destroy them!" Roar! The blood demon roared furiously and rushed toward the two exotic beasts. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing jumped off the blood demon. Suddenly, the three exotic beasts fought with each other. Blood qi surged and the fight was extremely fierce. The two exotic beasts were also very powerful. Unfortunately, they were still inferior to the blood demon. Chapter 274. After the two beasts were killed, there was no more movement from the stone door. "Little blood, break open the stone door," Lu Ming shouted. The blood demon roared and ran toward the stone door. Boom! It hit the stone door heavily, and the stone door shook violently. The whole world seemed to be shaking. However, the stone door did not open. "Continue!" Lu Ming shouted. The blood demon continued to attack, and the stone door shook continuously. Finally it opened a gap. Boom! At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to hear a deafening roar coming from outside the stone door. "What's going on?" Lu Ming frowned. However, he did not have time to think. He ran forward and shouted, "Let's go out." Xian Yanqing followed closely behind. Roar! At this moment, the sanguine demon roared and stopped in its tracks. A thought was transmitted to Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming roughly understood what the sanguine demon meant. It was born here and could not get out. Once it got out, it would turn into ashes. Lu Ming felt that it was a pity. If such a powerful blood demon followed them out, he would be able to defeat the Blazing Sun Empire and even the Shifeng Sword faction. What a pity! Lu Ming roared in his mind, but there was nothing he could do. He could only leave the blood demon and run toward the stone door with Xian Yanqing. The stone door was too big. Although it was only a gap, it was enough for the two of them to pass through. Whoosh! Whoosh! The two of them were like the wind. When they passed through the stone door, they felt the world spinning. The next moment, they found themselves standing on a hill. Behind them, there was a blood-red mist. It was the Blood Demon Cave. In front of them, there were green mountains and clear waters. However, at this moment the mountain in front of them shook. A blood-red beam of light shot up into the sky. It could be seen from 100 miles away. Rumble! On the side, another mountain shook. Then, another blood-red beam of light shot out, stirring up the wind and clouds. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were dumbfounded. Where was this? Why did it look so unfamiliar? Furthermore, could it be that this blood-red pillar of light was caused by them opening the giant stone door? Whoosh! Whoosh! At that moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Then, a few figures appeared in the sky. They were a few middle-aged burly men. Their auras were as thick as mountains. It was obvious that they were all martial arts grandmasters. Something is happening outside the Blood Domain Devil Cave. Could it be that a rare treasure has appeared? Hurry and inform the sect. The few burly men whispered. Then they stepped into the air and disappeared. However, not long after, more people arrived. Some of them were flying through the air. They were all strong cultivators of the martial ancestor realm. There were also some great martial teachers. Through these people's conversations, Lu Ming learned a fact that left him dumbfounded. This place was not within the Burning Sun Empire, but on the other side of the desolate wasteland, the border between the Blood Zhao Empire and the Dark Moon Empire. Lu Ming and the others had actually run in the wrong direction. Lu Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He and Xian Yanqing stared at each other. Rumble! The tremors became more and more intense. In the end, a total of 9 blood-colored light pillars appeared and shot into the sky. At this time, more than 100 people had gathered. This place is most likely the remains of the ancient sect, Cloud Emperor Palace. A white-haired elder in the sky speculated. What? It's the ancient sect, Cloud Emperor Palace? Some people were shocked and puzzled. That's a senior from the Great Sun Constabulary. His speculation shouldn't be wrong. That's right. The Great Sun Constabulary is the #1 sect in the Blood Zhao Empire. It has existed for a long time and is knowledgeable. I can't wait. Haha, this is a great opportunity. Nearby, some people were discussing excitedly. The ancient sect, Cloud Emperor Palace. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The Cloud Emperor Mountain Range was called the Cloud Emperor Mountain Range because of Cloud Emperor Palace. This showed how powerful Cloud Emperor Palace was. If this place was the remains of Cloud Emperor Palace, Lu Ming would definitely explore it. He didn't want to miss it. Everyone waited quietly. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing sat cross-legged on the side, healing their injuries and waiting. As time passed, more and more people arrived. Obviously, the news had spread. 7 days later, there was a sea of people in all directions. Even the sky was filled with people. There were people from the Blood Zhao Empire and the Yinhua Empire. Of course, most of them were from the Blood Zhao Empire. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. The Blood Zhao Empire was indeed powerful. Those standing in the sky were all grandmasters. There were at least 1,000 of them. The Blood Zhao Empire was indeed a medium-sized empire. It was terrifying. There are hundreds of experts from the Great Sun Constabulary and their core elders. It seems like we won't get a share of Cloud Emperor Palace's remains. Yeah, there are many experts from the other sects in the Blood Zhao Empire. The Yinhua Empire's imperial family is also here. There are many young experts, such as the 50 superstars of the Blood Zhao Empire and the 9 heroes of the Yinhua Empire. Discussions could be heard from time to time. Caw! At this moment, a sharp cry resounded in the sky. It was extremely ear-piercing. Then, a giant crow appeared in the sky. The crow was extremely large. Its wingspan was 30 meters. Its body was covered in blazing flames and its demonic aura was extremely terrifying. It was a Class 4 demonic beast. A Class 4 demonic beast was equivalent to a martial ancestor martial artist. A young man in his 20s stood on the back of the crow. He was wearing a fiery red robe with a large sun embroidered on it. He had his hands behind his back and looked at the blood-red light pillars. He had an aura of disdain. Yang Liuji. This is Yang Liuji? The 33rd on the Emperor Yun leaderboard? Other than him, who else could it be? Even the geniuses on the Emperor Yun leaderboard are here. There was a commotion in the crowd. Obviously, Yang Liuji's name had shaken everyone. 33rd on the Emperor Yun leaderboard? Is this person stronger than Qiu Chongkong? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The 36 geniuses on the Emperor Yun leaderboard could be said to be the strongest of their generation in the 36 countries of Emperor Yun. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, another 2 days had passed. At this time, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had already recovered from their injuries. Boom! Suddenly, the 9 blood-red light pillars let out a violent roar and shone brightly. They then gathered together. After a while, the blood-red light disappeared and a giant black vortex appeared in the sky. The space teleportation path will lead to the remains of Emperor Yun Palace. Charge! Suddenly, dozens of people charged into the vortex. In the next moment, screams were heard. Among the dozens of people, more than half of their bodies suddenly exploded. Their flesh and blood splattered all over the ground. However, the other half of the people rushed into the whirlpool and disappeared. What's going on? How can this be? Why did some people die and others charge into the vortex? What are the restrictions? Everyone stopped and did not dare to charge into the vortex. A white-haired elder appeared in front of the vortex and observed it carefully. Everyone recognized that he was a core elder of the Great Sun Constabulary. Chapter 275. What? Time inscriptions? Everyone was shocked. Time inscriptions were supreme inscriptions and it was extremely difficult to master them. According to my speculation, the age of those who enter this place is limited. Those who exceed a certain age will be killed by the inscription formation in the vortex. The white-haired old man said again. Then how old can we be and how old can we be? Someone asked. The world uses the age of 30 as a key classification. Those under 30 are the younger generation, which is the golden age for cultivation. So I speculate that those under 30 can enter this place, but those above 30 can't. The white-haired old man said, 30 years old? I've already surpassed that. I'm just 31 years old. How unlucky. Many people who were over the age of 30 had dejected expressions on their faces. They were cursing their bad luck. As for those under the age of 30, they were overjoyed. The stronger their cultivation, the happier they were. Since the older generation couldn't enter, those with powerful cultivation would naturally have an advantage. How could they not be happy? Let's go. Immediately, some young people under 30 rushed up. They disappeared into the vortex one by one. Ha ha ha, you ants want to compete with me. Yang Liuji laughed wildly. Of all the geniuses on the Imperial Cloud ranking list, he was the only one here. Who could compete with him? He stepped out, walked into the vortex, and disappeared. The other young people also rushed in like a swarm of bees. Lu Ming estimated that there were at least a few thousand of them. During this period, there were also those over 30 who didn't believe it and wanted to take a chance. In the end, they were all killed by the inscription formation. After that, those over 30 didn't dare to try again. Let's go in too, Lu Ming said to Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing nodded and rushed into the vortex with Lu Ming. After rushing into the vortex, the world was spinning. The next moment, Lu Ming found that he was standing at the foot of a mountain. In front of him was a boundless mountain. Xian Yanqing was right beside him. Not only that, it seemed that everyone had gathered at the foot of the mountain. At first glance, there were people everywhere. Boom! Suddenly, not far away from Lu Ming, a great battle broke out. The people who entered this place came from various factions. Some of them had grudges with each other, so it was normal for a fight to break out when they met. After a while, a miserable cry rang out as a young man was killed. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Inscriptions suddenly appeared in the sky, wrapping around the young man who had been killed. The next moment, a shocking scene appeared. The blood in the young man's body, including his essence blood, was all extracted. Under the effect of the inscriptions, The blood turned into a blood-colored crystal and fell to the ground. Could this be the blood refining crystal? It's the blood refining crystal. It's true. I have it with me. What? A dead person can actually be refined into a blood refining crystal. Unbelievable. A shocking uproar broke out among the crowd. Lu Ming was also shocked. The effect of the blood refining crystal was very similar to that of the blood refining pill. They were both used by martial artists to awaken their second bloodline. The effect of a blood refining crystal was similar to a blood refining pill. We'll know once we try. Suddenly, a cold shout sounded. Amidst the crowd, a sun emerged and exploded with a loud bang. There were endless screams and more than a dozen people were killed. The next moment, a large number of inscriptions appeared in the sky, wrapping around the corpses. Then, all the blood in the corpses was extracted and refined into blood refining crystals. It was true. Many people gasped, and many of them had bloodthirsty eyes. Kill! Kill! Suddenly, someone roared and charged toward the people around him. Oh no, run! Someone shouted and rushed toward the vast mountains in front of them. The scene was in chaos and the smell of blood filled the air. Dense inscriptions appeared in the sky. The blood of those who were killed turned into blood refining crystals. Kill! There were also people who charged toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming swept out with his long spear and hit the other party. The other party was repelled. Xian Yanqing, let's go. Let's rush into those mountains. Lu Ming shouted. There were too many geniuses who had entered this time. Most of them were young experts of the Blood Zhao Empire. There were many young experts of the martial ancestor realm. With Lu Ming's combat strength, he could only be ranked in the middle. He had to retreat for the time being. The two of them rushed toward the vast mountains. Soon, they rushed into the mountains and continued to run toward the depths of the mountains. Behind them, there were people rushing into the mountains. Thousands of people spread out in the vast mountains. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing ran for more than 200 miles before they stopped. In the next period of time, this place will turn into a killing hell. Lu Ming whispered. He could imagine how crazy it was to kill others and turn them into blood-refining crystals. The young people who had entered would definitely kill each other. Although the young experts of the martial ancestor realm did not need the blood-refining crystals, they could sell them at a shocking price. Lu Ming, we have to break through to the martial ancestor realm as soon as possible. Otherwise, we will be in a passive position, Xian Yanqing said. In this unfamiliar environment where they were facing strong enemies everywhere, the two of them had unknowingly become closer to each other. That's right, but it's not easy to break through. Let's look around and see if there are any treasures, Lu Ming said. The two of them chose a direction at random and ran forward. Whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, a sharp piercing sound could be heard as a few sword qis were fired toward the two of them. Someone was trying to ambush them. The two of them were startled and dodged the attacks with a flicker. Then, 8 figures appeared in a flash and surrounded the two of them. Consider yourself unlucky. Now, turn into our blood-refining crystals. A young man who was the leader of the 8 said coldly. He was the strongest among the 8 of them. His aura was extremely strong, indicating that he was a first-layer martial ancestor realm expert. The other 7 of them were also 9th-layer martial masters. 6th senior brother. This girl is so beautiful. It's a pity to kill her like this. Why don't you let me have some fun with her first before killing her? One of them, a short and fat youth, was looking at Xian Yanqing with a lewd expression. His eyes were filled with a perverted light. His crotch was actually bulging. Fatty Lu, put away your lewd thoughts. Where are we? Let's end this quickly. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. 6th senior brother scolded. The short and fat young man laughed. However, when he looked at Xian Yanqing, the lust in his eyes became stronger. He did not notice the murderous intent in Xian Yanqing's eyes. This guy is so pitiful. Lu Ming shook his head. In his heart, he was already mourning for this fatty. He even dared to flirt with Xian Yanqing. He was courting death. You're dead. As expected, a cold voice came from Xian Yanqing's mouth. What? I'm dead? You want to kill me? Haha, what a joke. Didn't you see that my sixth senior brother is a martial ancestor realm expert? You're just a martial grandmaster. How dare you try to kill me in front of a martial ancestor realm expert? What a joke. My baby. Chapter 276. The short and fat youth screamed at the top of his lungs. His screams were so tragic that the fat on his body kept shaking. A bloodstain could be seen at his crotch area. As for his thing, it had disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming could not help but tighten his crotch. He had seen clearly that Xian Yanqing had flicked her fingers and a black lotus petal flew out and cut off the short and fat youth's penis. When the other youths saw this, they also felt a chill in their crotches. "Ah, sixth senior brother, avenge me!" The short and fat youth continued to scream. "Bitch, you are courting death. Attack, kill them." The sixth senior brother shouted and charged at Lu Ming. He wanted to kill Lu Ming first and then torture Xian Yanqing. Human Dao Palm. Lu Ming did not bother to talk nonsense and directly used his most powerful move. A huge palm print suddenly formed above sixth senior brother's head and slammed down. Its power was so strong that it was shocking to the extreme. The sixth senior brother was shocked. He had not expected Lu Ming's attack to be so terrifying. He immediately used all his strength to block the attack. Bang! With a loud bang, the sixth senior brother was directly smashed into the ground and a big pit was formed. When the smoke and dust disappeared, the sixth senior brother was lying in the big pit like a pile of mud and was dying. The other 6 youths were stunned. Then, they trembled and broke out in cold sweat. One move, he killed the 6th senior brother, who was a martial grandmaster, with one move. Was he still a great martial mentor? The short and fat youth forgot to scream and widened his eyes in horror. "Run!" One of the youths shouted and the other 6 youths turned and ran. "Wait for me!" The short and fat youth screamed. However, he could not run fast because of the sharp pain in his crotch. He was so anxious that he was about to cry. "Want to run? Do you think you can run?" Xian Yanqing's voice was as cold as the winter snow. She waved her hands and black lotus petals flew out. The short and fat youth was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. He was killed before he could even scream. Swoosh! Swoosh! The flower petals pierced through the air, sharper than the sharpest blade. In just a few breaths of time, the 6 youths were all killed. At this moment, the 6th senior brother was no longer breathing. Inscriptions immediately appeared in the sky, extracting the blood from the corpses and condensing them into blood-refining crystals. However, not everyone could condense a blood-refining crystal. Lu Ming discovered that only a rank 5 bloodline martial practitioner could condense a blood-refining crystal. Those with bloodlines below rank 5 would have their blood energy dissipated before they could condense a single blood-refining crystal. One of the young men had a rank 6 bloodline, and he was able to condense 2 blood-refining crystals. As for the 6th senior brother, as a martial ancestor, he had awakened his second bloodline. His second bloodline was a common rank 9 bloodline. In an instant, he had formed 16 blood-refining crystals. Every time one's bloodline increased by a level, the number of blood-refining crystals condensed would double. It had nothing to do with cultivation. The 8 of them condensed a total of 22 blood-refining crystals. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing shared the crystals equally. Each of them received 11 crystals. Then the 2 of them left the place. Along the way, the 2 of them were ambushed a few more times. However, the strongest enemy was only a rank 1 martial ancestor. They were all killed by the 2 of them, and each of them received more than 10 blood-refining crystals. Although Lu Ming had 4,000 blood-refining elixirs, the more the better. The stronger his second bloodline was, the more likely he could awaken a higher-level bloodline. According to Supreme 9's sons, his first bloodline was awakened by the 9 dragon blood essence. However, his second bloodline had nothing to do with the 9 dragon blood essence. It was his own bloodline that was awakened. Lu Ming's bloodline was not of a high level. Lu Yao had taken away his bloodline and awakened a rank 5 bloodline. From this, it could be seen that Lu Ming's first bloodline was not higher than rank 5. Therefore, his second bloodline was probably not of a high level. Therefore, he would need a large number of blood-refining elixirs and blood-refining crystals. The second bloodline was very special. Some people might not even use a blood-refining pill or other treasures to replenish their bloodline potential, but they could still awaken an extremely high-level bloodline. However, this was not absolute. Consuming treasures such as blood-refining pills or blood-refining crystals would increase the chances of awakening a high-level bloodline. Half an hour later, the two of them appeared in front of a huge 7-story building. This building was shaped like a tower. In front of the tower, hundreds of young men stood facing each other. They were all staring at the tower. The gate of the tower was tightly shut. I've tried it just now. This gate is extremely heavy and cannot be opened by one person or a few people. I suggest that we work together to open the gate. As for the treasures inside, we'll let our strength speak for itself. A young man in a brocade robe shouted, "Who knows if you will sneak up on us when we open the gate? I'm worried." A young man who looked like a skinny monkey shouted, "If you're worried, you can get lost now." The young man in the brocade robe was very domineering. The skinny young man's face turned ugly, but he did not dare to refute. "You want the treasures but don't have the guts. You're destined to be a good-for-nothing." The young man in the brocade robe mocked. He then looked at the others and said, "How about it? Do you want to work together to open the gate of the tower? All right, I agree to work together." "I agree too." Almost everyone agreed to it. If they wanted to get the treasures inside, they had to open the gate first. "Attack together." The young man in the brocade robe shouted and threw out a powerful punch. "Attack." The others attacked together. Suddenly, all kinds of sword chi, saber chi, fist chi, palm chi, etc., were thrown at the gate of the tower. Boom, boom, boom. The tower rumbled and flashed. Finally, with a loud bang, the gate was blasted open. Whoosh! Whoosh! Immediately, dozens of people rushed toward the gate, afraid that the treasures would be taken away by others if they were too slow. Ah! Ah! However, in the next moment, shrill screams could be heard. At least 20 of the people who rushed into the gate screamed as their heads suddenly exploded. The other people were all martial ancestor realm elites. They attacked the surroundings as if they were fighting against something. Inscriptions appeared in the sky, and the young men who were killed were all condensed into blood refinement crystals. "What's there?" Outside the gate, someone shouted in fear. "I don't know. I can't see clearly. It's too strange. I'd better not go in." Someone wanted to retreat. At that moment, the martial ancestor realm elites had already rushed in and disappeared. "It's a type of blood red bug." Lu Ming stared at the gate with bright eyes. With his eyesight, he could see the attack. It was a type of blood red bug that was as thin as a hair and as long as a cicada. Most importantly, it was so fast that it could not be seen with the naked eye. Only martial ancestor realm elites could see it. As long as the blood red cicada rushed into the head would explode. "Let's go in." The other martial ancestor realm elites rushed in. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing moved and followed the crowd. Pest! As soon as he rushed in, a blood-red cicada shot toward him. He swept out his spear and sent the cicada flying. Then he rushed in. Chapter 277. After Lu Ming rushed in, he picked up a few blood-refining crystals along the way. "Nest, why are those two martial grandmasters so powerful?" Outside, the warriors in the great martial mentor realm were dumbfounded. After Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing rushed in, they saw a wide staircase that led to the second floor. Without hesitation, the two of them rushed up and found that there were shelves on the second floor. The shelves were empty, but there were a few dried corpses on the side of the shelves. It was obvious that they had been killed and their blood had been extracted to condense into blood-refining crystals. Obviously, the things here had been looted by the people who rushed in first. "Quick, go up. Get lost. Go to hell. You're the one who's going to die." The scene was in chaos. Everyone wanted to rush up. Naturally, there was chaos. 7 or 8 people were fighting. Whoosh! A young man with a battle axe chopped at Lu Ming. His cultivation of first martial ancestor realm was revealed. "Do you really think I'm a pushover?" Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He threw out a huge palm print at the young man. Bang! The young man's bones were broken and he was thrown back. However, he did not die because he had also cultivated an Earth-class martial skill, which blocked part of the power of the human Dao palm. Even so, the other young powerful figures were alarmed and they looked at Lu Ming with fear. Where did such a powerful martial grandmaster come from? I've seen the strongest martial grandmasters in the Blood Zhao Empire, but I've never seen such a person, someone said with a serious face. The others looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing with fear. Lu Ming ignored them and rushed to the third floor with Xian Yanqing. There were also a few shelves on the third floor. The items on the shelves had also been looted. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not stop and kept rushing up. The fourth floor, the fifth floor, the sixth floor. Until they reached the sixth floor, the two of them were always one step behind the others. Everything was looted. When they reached the sixth floor, they heard fierce fighting sounds coming from the seventh floor. The two of them rushed up without hesitation. Boom! Boom! On the seventh floor, 6 young men were engaged in an intense battle. One of them was the young man in the brocade robe. His cultivation was at the second layer martial ancestor realm, and he was definitely a genius. The other 5 had a cultivation of the first layer martial ancestor realm. The battle was incomparably intense. The 6 of them were tangled up in a chaotic battle, but it was obvious that the young man in the brocade robe had the upper hand. On the 7th floor, there were only 2 shelves with some jade bottles on them. On the shelf was written, Yuan Ancient Panacea, Level 4 Middle Grade Medicinal Pill. Lu Ming was greatly shocked, and then his eyes emitted a shocking light. The Yuan Ancient Panacea was a middle LV4 elixir that could increase one's cultivation level quickly. It was extremely useful for a martial arts grandmaster. In the outside world, the price of Yuan Ancient Spirit Pills was shockingly high. Moreover, there was often a price but no market. I have to get my hands on some of them. That way, my cultivation will be able to reach the peak of the 9th layer martial master realm in a short period of time. I will then consume the blood refining pills and blood refining crystals to refine my bloodline and break through to the martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming pondered quickly in his heart. In this place, Lu Ming did not have time to consume the blood essence of others. The blood essence of the martial artists who had died in the battle had all been refined into blood refining crystals. Without consuming the blood essence, Lu Ming's cultivation would not be able to increase in a short period of time. The Yuan Ancient Panacea had appeared at the right time. You want to compete with me? You are courting death. The young man in the brocade roared. His eyes were like lightning, and his body emitted a strong purple light. He threw out a palm, and a purple palm print appeared. It was extremely powerful, and the other young men quickly retreated. Zisong, there are so many people here. Do you want to take the Yuan Ancient Panacea for yourself? How is that possible? Another young man shouted. Is that so? Then I will kill you first. Purple Golden Dragon Palm. Zisong roared, and the purple light on his body became extremely dense. When it reached a certain level, the purple light turned golden. He threw out a palm, and a golden dragon roared out. Bam! The young man was hit by the golden dragon and was sent flying. He coughed out a mouthful of blood, and his aura was extremely weak. His eyes were filled with shock. Is it possible now? Zisong looked coldly at the young man, and then looked at the others. The other 4 young men's faces changed. Hurry up and get lost. If you don't, you will end up like him. Zisong's aura was domineering, and he looked coldly at the others. Zisong, there are 4 of us. Even if we join forces, we might not be afraid of you. A tall young man said unwillingly. As for Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, they were ignored by him. Boom! As soon as the tall young man finished his words, Zisong threw out a palm, and a golden dragon rushed out. With a scream, the young man was torn into 2 by the golden dragon. His blood essence was condensed into 16 blood refining crystals, which were kept by Zisong. You still want to join forces? This is the consequence. Zisong sneered. The remaining 3 young men were horrified. Zisong was too strong, and they were no match for him when he used his ultimate move. They looked at each other, and finally retreated from the 6th floor unwillingly. Why aren't the 2 of you scramming? At this moment, Zisong looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Scramming? Why don't you get lost? Lu Ming smiled faintly. Instantly, Zi Song's face darkened, and he said, Kid, do you know the consequences of your words? Now, you can't leave even if you want to. Two mere martial grandmasters want to get their hands on the Yuan ancient panacea. You really don't know your limits. Zi Song looked down at Lu Ming in a condescending manner as he walked toward Lu Ming. Kid, do you want to commit suicide, or do you want me to do it? If I do it, you won't die so easily. Also, girl, if you swear to be my concubine and serve me well for the rest of your life, I promise to let you go. Zi Song's gaze towards Xian Yanqing flashed with a trace of blazing light. Xian Yanqing's beauty was indeed rare in the world. Any man who saw her would be tempted. Trash like you. Do you think you are worthy? Xian Yanqing sneered. Since you want to do it the hard way, I'll send you on your way. Zi Song's body emitted a cold murderous intent, and he slapped towards Lu Ming. A purple palm print surged forward. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he slapped out as well. The human Dao palm was formed. Boom! The two palm prints collided and there was a loud bang. Lu Ming's figure swayed slightly while Zi Song retreated 3 steps before he could stabilize himself. At this moment, his face was filled with disbelief. A mere martial grandmaster of the 9th level could actually force him back with a single palm. How was that possible? Then an incomparably cold murderous intent burst out, and he roared, Damn it, go to hell! The purple light on Zi Song's body became extremely dense, and then it turned golden. He slapped out, and a golden dragon pounced out. The golden dragon merged with a powerful force. Chapter 278. Human Path Palm. Lu Ming shouted and struck out with his palm again. Lu Ming used all his strength and integrated the force of wind and fire into his palm. Boom! The human path palm collided with the golden dragon. There was a loud explosion and the human path palm shattered inch by inch. A terrifying force surged towards Lu Ming and Lu Ming could not help but retreat. Zi Song's combat strength was indeed extremely powerful. Lu Ming realized that as his cultivation increased, the opponents he faced became stronger. When facing these young martial arts grandmasters, his advantage in many aspects was not so obvious. These young martial arts grandmasters had all cultivated Earth-class martial skills and had comprehended the force. Moreover, they were not weak at all. Although Lu Ming had a slight advantage in terms of martial skills and force, it was not by much. Furthermore, how could the martial arts grandmasters cultivate yellow-class martial skills? Normally, they would cultivate black-class upper-class martial skills. It was not surprising that some of them cultivated Earth-class martial skills. The higher the level of the martial skill, the thicker and more condensed the genuine qi that was cultivated. Lu Ming's genuine qi could not possibly be 5 times that of these people. Therefore, his advantage was further reduced. It was even more difficult to fight someone of a higher level. Therefore, Lu Ming was forced to retreat by Zi Song. However, Zi Song was even more shocked. He was a peerless genius and not an ordinary second-realm martial arts grandmaster. He could not believe that his full-strength palm could only force Lu Ming to retreat and did not kill him. Kill! This brat is more talented than me. He cannot be left alive in this world. Zi Song roared in his heart and attacked Lu Ming again. Chi! At that moment, Xian Yanqing also attacked. Black lotuses formed around her body and the black petals danced in the air, enveloping Zi Song. At the same time, she waved her palms and black palm prints whizzed out. Bitch, you are courting death. Zi Song shouted and used a portion of his power to attack Xian Yanqing. Boom! Immediately, the 3 of them engaged in a great battle. Xian Yanqing's battle prowess was also extremely shocking. He was not the slightest bit inferior to Lu Ming's. The 2 of them joined forces and fought Zi Song to a draw. Zi Song's expression was extremely gloomy. The more they fought, the more frightened he became. The 3 of them fought fiercely, and powerful qi shot out in all directions. However, inscriptions appeared on the walls of the 7th floor, reducing most of the power. Otherwise, those Yuan ancient panaceas would have been shattered. In the blink of an eye, more than 50 moves had passed. On the 6th floor, the 3 young men of the first martial ancestor realm stood there. When they heard the violent explosions coming from the 7th floor, they looked at each other. Who was Zisong fighting with? Could it be the man and woman of the 9th level martial Grand Master from before? But how was that possible? 2 young men and women of the 9th level of the martial master realm were able to fight Zisong to such an extent? Then what were they? Trash? They found it hard to believe. But other than the 2 young men and woman, there was no one else up there. The 3 decided to wait on the 6th floor. Die! Die for me! Zisong roared furiously. The golden glow on his body was extremely dense. He roared furiously in his heart. He wanted to kill Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, but he was unable to do so. After a while, the golden glow on Zisong's body began to dissipate rapidly. Damn it! Damn it! You 2 pieces of trash! Cheating couple, just you wait. If I don't kill you, I swear I'm not a human. Zisong roared angrily, waving his palms continuously to block Lu Ming's and Xian Yanqing's attacks. He then broke into a run and ran toward the 6th floor, disappearing down the stairs in an instant. Maintaining the golden glow consumed a great amount of his qi. He could no longer hold on and could only run away. Otherwise, he would be killed by Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. On the 6th floor, the 3 youths were waiting. Suddenly, they saw Zisong rush down from the 7th floor at an extremely fast speed. He ran down the stairs as if he was on fire. This caused the 3 young men to be stunned. Could it be that Zisong was defeated? The 3 young men looked at each other and gasped. Then, without hesitation, they ran away as well. On the 7th floor, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing looked around. There were 2 shelves and there were jade bottles on each shelf. All of them were Yuan ancient panaceas. Let's split it evenly. Lu Ming smiled and walked toward one of the shelves while Xian Yanqing walked toward the other shelf. Lu Ming glanced at the shelves and counted that there were a total of 49 jade bottles. Lu Ming picked up a jade bottle and opened it. He smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. Inside the jade bottle, there were 9 round, milky white pills. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He waved his hand and kept all the jade bottles in the Temple of Paragon. On the other hand, Xian Yanqing kept the Yuan ancient panaceas and smiled. With these Yuan ancient panaceas, I will be able to reach the martial ancestor realm very soon. At that time, I will trample you under my feet. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming and said viciously. Lu Ming was speechless. Why does this girl keep thinking about this? Xian Yanqing walked down the stairs while Lu Ming smiled and followed closely behind. When they reached the bottom of the stairs, there was no one around. When the 2 of them walked out of the pavilion, they realized that the people outside had all left. No one knew how long they could stay in the secret land and no one was willing to waste time. Since they couldn't do it here, they would look for other places. The 2 of them exited the pavilion, randomly chose a direction, and ran at top speed. They wanted to find a quiet place to consume the Yuan ancient panaceas to raise their cultivation. Half an hour later, the 2 of them passed by a dilapidated palace. Ran. Zhao Hong, one of the 50 supernovas of the Blood Zhao Empire, is in there. Terrified shouts could be heard from the dilapidated palace. Then, more than 20 young men ran out of the dilapidated palace in fear. Die! A cold voice that was filled with killing intent could be heard from the dilapidated palace. Then, a terrifying saber light slashed out. Ah! Ah! Shrill screams could be heard. More than 20 young men were killed by the saber. Inscriptions filled the sky and blood-refining crystals condensed one after another. A young man with messy hair and a long saber on his back stepped out. With a wave of his hand, he kept all the blood-refining crystals. Then, he looked in front of him. A piercing killing intent spread out from his body. 1,000 meters away, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's faces changed. Let's go! Lu Ming shouted and left the place quickly with Xian Yanqing. This young man was too strong. The 2 of them were no match for him. The 50 supernovas of the Blood Zhao Empire were on the same level as the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire. Looking at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's figures, Zhao Hong's eyes flashed. He didn't chase after them. Instead, he turned around and entered the dilapidated palace. 50 miles away, in a valley, miserable screams could be heard. It's Duan Ling, one of the 9 heroes of the Een Moon Empire. Don't kill me. In the next moment, a shocking sword chi burst out from the valley. More than 10 young men were killed by the sword and turned into blood-refining crystals. Whether it was the first or second level of the martial ancestor realm, they couldn't escape the fate of being killed. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, who saw the scene from afar, didn't stop. They turned around and left. A few hundred miles away from Lu Ming and the others, Yang Liuji laughed in the ruins. There were at least 50 young men's corpses lying around him. Their blood qi had been condensed into blood-refining crystals. Chapter 279. An hour later, the two of them appeared in a secluded valley. It was a secluded place with few people around. It was a good place to cultivate. Without saying anything, the two of them sat down cross-legged and took out the Yuan ancient panacea to cultivate. They took out a jade bottle and opened it. Immediately, a medicinal fragrance filled the air. The Yuan ancient panacea was a middle LV4 elixir. It was very helpful to martial grandmasters and was priceless. Lu Ming poured out one of the Yuan ancient panacea and swallowed it. In an instant, the 9 dragons' bloodline released a strong devouring force, and the medicinal efficacy of the Yuan ancient panacea was continuously devoured and refined. Soon, the medicinal efficacy of the Yuan ancient panacea was completely refined. Lu Ming felt that his cultivation had increased by a level. The medicinal efficacy of the Yuan ancient panacea was at least 10 times that of a class 9 LV3 demonic pill. At this moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes and looked at Xian Yanqing. When they saw it, they sucked in a breath of cold air. They saw a huge black lotus floating above Xian Yanqing's head. This was obviously Xian Yanqing's bloodline. However, there were 9 blood-red chakras around the black lotus. It was very breathtaking. LV9 bloodline. Xian Yanqing's bloodline had actually reached LV9. It was really terrifying. One had to know that Xian Yanqing had not broken through to Martial Grandmaster and awakened her second bloodline. In other words, her first bloodline had reached LV9. This little she-devil's bloodline is terrifyingly high. No wonder her combat strength is so strong. She is a true genius. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. To be honest, this was the first time he had seen Xian Yanqing's bloodline. Her first bloodline has already reached LV9 ordinary LV9. I wonder what rank her second bloodline will be? Lu Ming could not help but look forward to it. Immediately after, Lu Ming continued to refine the Yuan ancient panacea. The surging energy was constantly converted into true qi, and Lu Ming's cultivation increased rapidly. Soon, the entire bottle of a Yuan ancient panacea was refined, and Lu Ming's cultivation was approaching the middle LV9 martial grandmaster. He continued to refine. Half a day later, Lu Ming had refined 12 bottles of pills in a row, raising his cultivation to the peak of the 9th level martial master realm. At this time, not far away, Xian Yanqing's body also emitted a strong fluctuation. Her cultivation had also reached the peak of the 9th level of the martial master realm. After reaching the peak of martial master realm, one could start consuming blood-refining pills and blood-refining crystals to condense the second bloodline and accumulate energy for the awakening of the second bloodline. This process was known as blood coagulation, which was also known as half-grandmaster. In the process of blood condensation, one's blood and qi would be exuberant, even stronger than the peak of the 9th layer of the martial master realm. A piece of blood-refining crystal appeared in Xian Yanqing's hand, and she swallowed it in one gulp. Immediately after, her spine emitted a dense bloody light. Lu Ming did not waste any time. He also took out a blood-refining crystal and swallowed it. As soon as the blood refinement crystal entered Zhang Xian's mouth, it turned into a surge of blood energy that was absorbed by his spine. It began to condense beneath his first bloodline. At that place, a blood-red dot began to appear. As the blood energy poured in, it slowly became brighter. In a few breaths, the blood energy of a blood-refining crystal was completely absorbed. Lu Ming took out several crystals at once and swallowed them in one gulp. The blood-red light at his spine grew bigger and brighter. Soon, the dozens of blood-refining crystals that Lu Ming had obtained here were all used up. Then, he grabbed at the air and a handful of blood-refining pills appeared. He stuffed them all into his mouth. After a while, he grabbed another handful. At this time, He suddenly found someone in front of him and could not help but open his eyes. He saw a pair of bright eyes staring at him in surprise. It was Xian Yanqing. "Nest, what are you doing? Are you trying to scare me to death?" Lu Ming shouted. Xian Yanqing blinked her big eyes and asked, "Do you have blood refining pills? How many do you have?" "I do have blood refining pills. What does it have to do with you?" Lu Ming said. Can you give me some?" Xian Yanqing seemed to find it difficult to speak and stammered. "No, I'll give them to you so that you can break through and trample me under your feet in the future." Lu Ming firmly resisted. "Humph. Do you think that I can't trample you under my feet if you don't give me blood refining pills?" Xian Yanqing snorted coldly as he gritted his teeth, revealing a few sparkling white teeth. Then, she turned her head and walked to the side. However, in less than a minute, she walked back and stared at Lu Ming with her big eyes. "What do you want now?" Lu Ming asked speechlessly. I'll buy blood refining pills from you, okay? How many spirit crystals do you want? Name a price. Or I can exchange with treasures." Xian Yanqing said. "Exchange with treasures? That's fine. How about this? I'll name a few treasures. If you have them, I'll exchange with you." Lu Ming said. "Okay, tell me." Xian Yanqing said. "Shenyang Spirit, Shifang Bone." Lu Ming listed the names of 5 heavenly treasures in a row. These 5 heavenly treasures were all materials needed to cultivate the 5th level of the true dragon fighting technique. Unfortunately, Su Xie and Yanqing both shook their heads, indicating that they did not. "If you don't have them, how can you exchange?" "How about this? Give me some dragon essence and I'll exchange with you." Lu Ming curled his lips. "I don't have dragon essence, but I do have a flood dragon bone pearl. What do you think?" Xian Yanqing asked hopefully. "What? Flood dragon bone pearl? You really have it? Let me take a look." Lu Ming said eagerly. Xian Yanqing's palm glowed. The next moment, a fiery red bone pearl the size of a baby's fist appeared in Xian Yanqing's palm. "It's really a flood dragon bone pearl, and it's a flaming flood dragon bone pearl." Lu Ming was overjoyed. Cultivating the true battle dragon art did not necessarily require those few materials. There were also some substitutes. It was just that these substitutes were more precious. For example, the items of a true dragon were priceless treasures. Having one of them could help the true dragon fighting technique break through. Although a flood dragon was not a true dragon, it had the bloodline of a true dragon and was an extremely rare species. It also had some functions. Lu Ming was just casually mentioning it. He did not expect Xian Yanqing to really have such a treasure. "Let me see." Lu Ming took the flood dragon bone pearl and looked at it carefully. The flood dragon that produced this flood dragon bone pearl has a very high cultivation. As long as I have this flood dragon bone pearl and another material, the true dragon fighting technique will be able to break through to the 5th level. Lu Ming thought. How is it? Not bad, right? I'll exchange it with you for 2,000 blood refining pills. Xian Yanqing said. 2,000 pills? Dream on. You're asking for too much. Lu Ming was shocked and shouted. This is a flood dragon bone pearl. I paid a huge price to get it. 2,000 blood refining pills is not much. Xian Yanqing said. 500. Lu Ming said. What? That's too much. 1,500. No less. Xian Yanqing gritted his teeth. 800. I can't give you more. Lu Ming said with trembling lips. 1,200. 900. 1,000 blood refining pills. No less. I won't trade if it's any less. Xian Yanqing said fiercely. All right. Deal. Chapter 280. He took out 1,000 blood refining elixirs and exchanged them with Xian Yanqing for the dragon bone pearl. Xian Yanqing happily ran to the side to refine the elixirs. Lu Ming observed the dragon bone pearl and was overjoyed. He put it away and continued to devour the blood refining elixirs. 2 days later, Lu Ming had refined all the remaining blood refining elixirs. Lu Ming's spine was filled with blood light. However, Lu Ming was not in a hurry to break through to Martial Grandmaster. He felt that it was not enough. He still needed to refine treasures like blood-refining elixirs and blood-refining crystals. At this moment, Xian Yanqing was sitting cross-legged. The blood light on his spine was denser than Lu Ming's and there was a terrifying fluctuation. He had not refined as many blood-refining elixirs as Lu Ming, but his fluctuation was stronger than Lu Ming's. This was because of his talent. After a while, the blood light disappeared and the terrifying fluctuation was concealed. Xian Yanqing opened his eyes. "Do you have any more blood-refining elixirs?" This was the first question Xian Yanqing asked after he finished cultivating. Lu Ming spread his hands and said, "No, I don't think it's enough." "Then let's go kill them. The others must have a lot of blood-refining crystals." A cold light flashed in Xian Yanqing's eyes. "That's what I want." Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then the two of them left the place. They chose a direction and ran wildly. 2 hours later, the two of them stopped at a barren mountain. They felt that their unawakened second bloodline was throbbing as if it was attracted by something. Over there. The two of them headed in that direction. 10 miles away, there was a boundless stone forest. Stone pillars stood there. These stone pillars were carved into various shapes, such as tigers, lions, wolves. Some were even carved into humans, real dragons, and so on. Whoosh! Whoosh! Many figures appeared in the surroundings and rushed towards the stone forest. Boom boom! In the stone forest, there were continuous rumbling sounds. Clearly, there was a great battle going on. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing looked at each other and rushed towards the stone forest. Dai! On the side, a young man in the first martial arts grandmaster realm charged towards Lu Ming. His heart was pierced by Lu Ming's spear. The young man's eyes were wide open as he died, filled with disbelief. The current Lu Ming was infinitely close to a martial arts grandmaster, and could be considered half a step away from being a martial arts grandmaster. He was much stronger than before. Lu Ming could kill an ordinary first martial arts grandmaster in one move. As soon as the young man died, his blood qi and blood essence condensed into blood-refining crystals. There were 16 of them in total, which Lu Ming took. At the same time, his true energy surged out and the young man's storage ring flew into Lu Ming's hands. Along the way, many people wanted to attack Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, but they were mercilessly killed by the two of them. The combination of my wind force and fire force is powerful. However, it is only a combination and cannot be fully integrated. If the two forces can be fully integrated, the power will be even more shocking. But how can I fully integrate the two forces? If it works, then it will become one of my trump cards. Lu Ming pondered as he fought. Soon, the two of them had covered a distance of 10 miles. The attraction to their bloodlines was even stronger. Soon, a pit appeared in front of them. The pit was surrounded by various carvings. The two of them walked into the pit and took a look. Instantly, their hair stood on end. In the pit, there were piles of white bones. There were all kinds of living beings. Some were humanoid, and some were demonic beasts. Between the white bones, there were blood-red crystals that emitted a blood-red glow. Blood-refining crystals. They were all blood-refining crystals. The blood-refining crystals were the ones that attracted their bloodlines. They were not left behind now, but from the ancient times. This place is a burial ground. It is also a place where ancient sacrifices are held. Xian Yanqing seemed to be talking to himself. His voice was trembling. Blood-refining crystals. They are all blood-refining crystals. These are all mine. Many figures appeared in the surroundings, their eyes blazing with fiery light as they looked down. Yours? You are courting death. You are the one who is going to die. Swoosh swoosh. A few figures jumped into the pit and started fighting in the air. At that moment, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing jumped into the pit. Immediately, someone attacked them. Bam! Lu Ming used a human path palm print to smash the martial arts Grandmaster Realm First Realm Young Expert into a meat patty. He was condensed into blood-refining crystals in the air. Xian Yanqing was also extremely powerful. A black lotus flew out and chopped off the head of a martial arts Grandmaster Realm First Realm Expert. As soon as the two of them landed, their genuine qi surged and swept across. The blood-refining crystals were collected by the two of them. In just a few breaths, Lu Ming had collected hundreds of blood-refining crystals. There were still many of them. Some of them were even buried in bones. Collect. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing collected the crystals to their heart's content. Damn it! When the others saw this, their eyes turned red. They stopped fighting and rushed down to fight for the blood-refining crystals. Bas! At that moment, a saber radiance suddenly slashed down from above. Screams were heard as 5 to 6 young men were killed. Then, a young man with disheveled hair and a saber on his back appeared above the pit. Zhao Hong. It is Zhao Hong. Let's go. The rest of the people turned pale with fright. They quickly flew into the sky and tried to escape. However, in the next moment, a saber radiance flashed and those people were all cut in half in the air. Die! Zhao Hong casually glanced at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing in the pit. Then, he slashed down with his saber. The saber radiance was ghastly white and the killing intent was as cold as winter snow. It shrouded the two of them. Human path palm. Great demonic palm print. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing shouted and joined forces to fight against the enemy. In the face of such a strong enemy, there was no need to hesitate. They could only join forces. Boom! With a loud boom, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing retreated backward. Zhao Hong's eyes flickered and he was surprised. He said, I did not expect 2 martial grandmasters to be able to block my saber. This is rare in the world. However, you will still die today. Boom! A strong aura exploded from Zhao Hong's body. A saber radiance shot up to the sky like a waterfall. Slash! Then, he slashed down with his saber. Retreat! Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing retreated without hesitation. Bang! Zhao Hong's saber slashed down on the thousands of bones in the pit. Immediately, the bones shattered and shot out in all directions. Blood-refining crystals flew into the sky and fell back down. Roar! At that moment, something strange happened. Under the thousands of bones in the pit, there was a shocking roar. A terrifying murderous aura surged out from the white bones. Bang! Then, the white bones in the pit exploded, and a creature rushed out. This living creature was in the shape of a human. It was 3 meters tall and covered in green hair. Its nails were long and sharp and its mouth was full of fangs. Blood zombie. This living creature was exactly the same as the blood zombie that Lu Ming and the others had encountered in the Blood Demon Cave. The only difference was that this blood zombie's eyes were golden. The aura it emitted was much stronger than the blood zombie in the Blood Demon Cave. The demonic aura filled the air. Roar! Chapter 281. You're courting death. Zhao Hong shouted coldly and swung his saber at the golden-eyed blood zombie. Clang! The saber light clashed with the golden-eyed blood zombie's claw. Sparks flew everywhere. Bang! A figure flew far away. It was Zhao Hong. He was no match for the golden-eyed blood zombie and was sent flying by its claw. Roar! The golden-eyed blood zombie roared and continued to chase after Zhao Hong. Its speed was as fast as lightning. Zhao Hong's face was extremely ugly. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He had been injured by the previous attack. Now that the golden-eyed blood zombie was charging at him, he didn't dare to continue fighting. He turned and ran in the direction of Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Oh no, run! Lu Ming's face changed. He and Xian Yanqing also turned and ran. You two still dare to run? Stop right now and help me stall this blood zombie. Dying at the hands of this blood zombie is a quick death. Once you fall into my hands, I'll make you beg for death. Zhao Hong shouted coldly. He was unusually domineering. Nest, one of the 50 supernovas of the Blood Zhao Empire? I think he's a complete idiot. Little Qing, what do you think? Lu Ming's disdainful voice came out of his mouth. Xian Yanqing staggered and almost fell. What did Lu Ming call her? Little Qing? Xian Yanqing's eyes flashed fiercely as she stared at Lu Ming. Little Qing, is that guy an idiot? Lu Ming pretended not to know and continued to ask. Yes. Xian Yanqing gritted her teeth and spat out a word after a long while. Lu Ming was obviously taking advantage of her. You're courting death. Zhao Hong roared. He was about to unleash his true qi and slash at Lu Ming, but his true qi slowed him down. The golden-eyed blood zombie caught up and clawed at him. Chila! Even though Zhao Hong escaped quickly, A piece of cloth was still caught. And this piece of cloth that was caught just happened to be at Zhao Hong's buttocks. Immediately, half of Zhao Hong's snow-white buttocks were revealed. Zhao Hong screamed and jumped forward as if he had been electrocuted. Only then did he avoid the danger of being torn apart. But in the next moment, he felt a chill on his buttocks. When he turned his head to look, he roared. Why is that fellow's running posture so strange? He keeps looking at his own butt. Is he sick? Lu Ming's sharp eyes noticed Zhao Hong's strange behavior and muttered. Zhao Hong's face was flushed red. His killing intent towards Lu Ming was so thick that it could not be dissipated. He chased after Lu Ming in a frenzy while the golden-eyed blood zombie chased after him. Zhao Hong's speed was very fast. He would soon catch up with Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Ha ha ha, go to hell, kid. With a beauty accompanying you, you won't be lonely on the road to the Yellow Springs. Zhao Hong sneered. His true qi burst forth, increasing his speed to the maximum. He flew over Lu Ming's heads in an extremely arrogant manner. Behind him, the golden-eyed blood zombie roared. It stared at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing with murderous intent. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly felt the demon suppression token that Supreme Nine Suns had given him glowing faintly. Could it be that after the demon suppression token subdued the blood demon, it still has the energy to subdue this golden-eyed blood zombie? A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Forget it. Let's give it a try. Lu Ming suddenly stopped. The demon suppression token had unknowingly appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Lu Ming, why did you stop? Xian Yanqing turned pale with fright. However, Lu Ming only gave her a slight smile and did not explain. Damn it, Lu Ming. You can't die before I trample you under my feet. Xian Yanqing gritted her teeth and stopped as well. She stood beside Lu Ming. Ha ha ha. These two bastards are probably scared silly. Zhao Hong ran wildly. He only stopped when he was 10 miles away. He stood in the air and watched from afar. Roar! The golden-eyed blood zombie roared and was about to claw at Lu Ming. Stop! The demon suppression token in Lu Ming's hand glowed. An invisible wave surged toward the golden-eyed blood zombie. At the same time, Lu Ming shouted in his heart. It turned into an invisible wave and rushed into the golden-eyed blood zombie's body. All of this happened without a sound. Even Xian Yanqing didn't notice it. At this time, Xian Yanqing's body was already covered with black lotuses. Her genuine qi was running to the extreme, ready to fight to the death. However, the golden-eyed blood zombie suddenly stopped. It let out a low growl but did not continue to attack. It worked. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Go back. Lu Ming gave another order in his heart. The next moment, the golden-eyed blood zombie let out a low growl. As expected, it turned around and ran back. Then, it jumped into the pit and disappeared. Xian Yanqing was dumbfounded. Her eyes widened and she said in a daze, What's going on? Ha ha ha, little Qing, can't you see? I, Lu Ming, am blessed by the heavens. I'm blessed by the heavens. What golden-eyed blood zombie? It didn't run away obediently when it saw me. How would it dare to attack me? Lu Ming laughed wildly. He looked like a villain who was intoxicated with success and was extremely narcissistic. TSK. Xian Yanqing despised. She did not believe Lu Ming's nonsense at all. Then she gritted her teeth and said, Lu Ming, I'm warning you. Don't call me little Qing. Okay, little Qing. Lu Ming replied. You. Xian Yanqing ground her teeth. She could not wait to bite Lu Ming. In the distant sky, Zhao Hong was also dumbfounded. What's going on? Why didn't the golden-eyed blood zombie attack those two? Zhao Hong's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Could it be that the golden-eyed blood zombie won't attack as long as they admit defeat? Zhao Hong's imagination ran wild. However, he did not dare to step forward for a while. The golden-eyed blood zombie was too strong. If he fought it head-on, he would be killed in a few moves. In the stone forest, Lu Ming glanced at Zhao Hong in the distant sky and sneered. Then he said to Xian Yanqing, Let's go. There are still so many blood-refining crystals. Let's take them all. You're still going? Aren't you afraid of the golden-eyed blood zombie? Xian Yanqing hesitated. What's there to be afraid of? I've said that I'm blessed by God. The golden-eyed blood zombie will run away when it sees me. Don't worry. I'm here. Everything will be fine. Lu Ming was full of nonsense, feeling smug as he strode forward in big strides. Xian Yanqing gritted her teeth and followed Lu Ming. When they arrived at the pit, the golden-eyed blood zombie did not move at all. Lu Ming was not worried at all with a smile on his face. He jumped into the pit and began to collect the blood-refining crystals. Seeing this, Xian Yanqing was also relieved. For some reason, he suddenly believed Lu Ming's words a little. Bah, how is that possible? This guy is full of nonsense. Xian Yanqing shook her head secretly and began to collect the blood-refining crystals vigorously. It's okay. It's really okay. In the distance, Zhao Hong saw this scene. His mouth opened so wide that a goose egg could be stuffed in it. Should I kill those two and take the blood-refining crystals? No, I'm a genius. My future is limitless. How can I take risks so easily? When those two guys finish collecting the blood-refining crystals and come out, I'll kill them. The blood-refining crystals will still be mine. Zhao Hong planned. He was not in a hurry and waited in the air. Collect, collect, collect. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were extremely excited. Chapter 282. What should we do? That guy is waiting for us outside. No matter which direction we go, he will probably chase after us. Xian Yanqing looked at the sky and frowned. Why do we have to go out? Can't we just cultivate here? Lu Ming smiled faintly, jumped into the pit, and sat cross-legged beside it. Cultivate here? Xian Yanqing was in disbelief. Trust me. Lu Ming transmitted his voice into Xian Yanqing's ears. Xian Yanqing was skeptical, but on second thought, Lu Ming had never been taken advantage of. Maybe he really had a way. Gritting his teeth, Xian Yanqing threw caution to the wind. He also sat cross-legged, took out a handful of blood-refining crystals, swallowed them, and began to refine them. Lu Ming laughed and deliberately looked at the sky. He also took out a handful of blood-refining crystals, swallowed them, and began to refine them. In the sky, Zhao Hong was dumbfounded. They are refining blood-refining crystals here? Damn it, damn it! Zhao Hong roared in his heart, and killing intent burst out from his eyes. In his opinion, all the blood-refining crystals here belonged to him. Now Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were refining his blood-refining crystals, which was a heinous crime. But he still hesitated and did not go over. Soon, Lu Ming refined a handful of blood-refining crystals and took out another handful to refine. One after another, Lu Ming refined hundreds of blood-refining crystals in a short time, and Xian Yanqing was almost the same. The golden-eyed blood zombie has not appeared yet. It should be fine. Smash it, die! Zhao Hong roared and flew toward Lu Ming. After a while, he was close to Lu Ming. Finally here? Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. He ignored everything and continued to cultivate. Xian Yanqing was shocked and stood up to resist. Die, you little bastard! Zhao Hong roared as he unsheathed his saber, about to slash down. Roar! Suddenly, a loud roar came from the crater. The golden-eyed blood zombie rushed out and charged at Zhao Hong. Bang! Caught off guard, Zhao Hong was swept by the golden-eyed blood zombie's claws. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying far away. Roar! The golden-eyed blood zombie charged towards Zhao Hong. What's going on? How could this be? Those two bastards have been here for so long. Not only have they been collecting blood-refining crystals, but they have also been refining them. The golden-eyed blood zombie hasn't rushed out yet. Why did it rush out when I arrived? I can't accept this. Zhao Hong roared in his heart. But how could he dare to stay? He turned around and ran. The golden-eyed blood zombie clawed at Zhao Hong, tearing a large hole in his pants, revealing his snow-white buttocks, which writhed madly in the air. Hey! Your buttocks are showing again. Ha-ha! Why would I say again? Lu Ming laughed loudly. Xian Yanqing's face reddened. He snorted coldly and turned around. Ah! Zhao Hong roared at the sky. His hair danced wildly, and his aura was astonishing. But what greeted him was the golden-eyed blood zombie's claw. Whoosh! The claw swept past, leaving 5 wounds on Zhao Hong's body. It was as if he had been cut by a blade, dripping with blood. Zhao Hong spat out a mouthful of blood. He had already been injured, and his speed had decreased. He could no longer escape from the golden-eyed blood zombie. If I die, let's die together. Zhao Hong roared and charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming stood up and looked at him with a faint smile. What happened next made Zhao Hong vomit blood. When the golden-eyed blood zombie passed by Lu Ming, it didn't even look at Lu Ming and continued to chase after him. Why? Zhao Hong roared, unwilling and puzzled. But it was useless. Soon, the golden-eyed blood zombie caught up. Despite his peerless talent and desperate resistance, he was still torn in half by the golden-eyed blood zombie after a few moves. Zhao Hong, one of the Blood Zhao Empire's 50 supernovas, a genius on the same level as the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire, died unwillingly, puzzled, and humiliated. His blood and essence had all been converted into blood-refining crystals. 81 crystals. Zhao Hong had refined a total of 81 blood-refining crystals. His second bloodline was a first-rank king bloodline. Lu Ming took all of them, including Zhao Hong's blood-refining crystals. Roar! The golden-eyed blood zombie growled and appeared beside Lu Ming, standing there obediently. Xian Yanqing was dumbfounded. She stared for a while, then suddenly remembered that the incomparably powerful blood demon was also obedient in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming, do you have a way to subdue demons? Xian Yanqing asked. Didn't I tell you? I'm the chosen one, blessed by the heavens. These demons will be shocked when they see me and will naturally be obedient. Lu Ming looked proud. He looked at Xian Yanqing carefully and said, How about it? Are you tempted? Why don't you be my bed-warming maid? You'll get endless benefits if you follow me. Lu Ming had a smug expression on his face. Bed warming your head, humph. I guess you must have some kind of treasure that can subdue demons. Don't pretend in front of me. One day, I'll trample you under my feet. Xian Yanqing snorted. She twisted her arrogant neck and went to one side to refine the blood-refining crystals. Lu Ming smiled and ordered the golden-eyed blood zombie to guard at one side. Then, he took out Zhao Hong's storage ring. Ignoring the rest for the time being, Lu Ming took out all the blood refinement crystals inside. More than 500. There were more than 500 blood-refining crystals in Zhao Hong's storage ring. This meant that at least a few hundred young experts had died in Zhao Hong's hands. This time, all of them benefited Lu Ming. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing refined the blood-refining crystals with all their strength. During this time, other young people came here, but they were all scared away by the golden-eyed blood zombie. In the blink of an eye, another 2 days passed. Lu Ming refined more than 3,000 blood-refining crystals. In total, Lu Ming had refined more than 6,000 blood-refining pills and blood-refining crystals. At this time, the blood light at Lu Ming's spine was extremely dense. The blood qi was so substantial that it looked like it was going to turn into blood droplets. It's done. I'll break through the martial arts Grandmaster realm and awaken the second bloodline. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He waved his hand and hundreds of thousands of spiritual crystals appeared beside him. Then, he activated the true dragon fighting skill. The qi vortex in his dantian rotated rapidly. The dragon-shaped genuine qi in his body was surging. At his spine, the blood qi exploded. At this moment, Lu Ming's essence, qi, and spirit were condensed to the extreme. Boom! Suddenly, Lu Ming's body let out an earth-shattering roar. A surge of essence qi rose and rushed into the sky. Countless young experts within a radius of dozens of miles looked over. Soaring qi. Someone has broken through to the martial arts Grandmaster realm. What a terrifying aura. This power is too shocking. What kind of genius is he? When I broke through to the martial arts Grandmaster realm, my essence qi was less than 1/5 of his. Terrifying. Many people were discussing. Some people even rushed over. However, with the golden-eyed blood zombie around, they could not set foot in. Some people even tried to force their way in but were killed by the golden-eyed blood zombie. The rest did not dare to force their way in. It took a while for the pillar of essence qi to vanish. Swallow. At this time, Lu Ming's 9 dragons bloodline appeared. He opened his mouth and inhaled. Large amounts of spiritual crystals around him exploded and were swallowed by the 9 dragons bloodline. They were constantly converted into Lu Ming's genuine qi. Chapter 283. Soon, at least 200,000 spiritual crystals were absorbed by Lu Ming and turned into genuine qi. Lu Ming felt that the genuine qi in his body was 10 times stronger than before. The martial arts Grandmaster realm was really powerful. Lu Ming had broken through to LV1 martial arts Grandmaster realm. Bloodline awaken. At this moment, Lu Ming's spine shook and a thick blood light spread out. At his spine, a blood-red light was extremely dense as if something was about to break out of his body. Awaken! Lu Ming growled again. Bang! At his spine, a bloody light exploded. Then, an object condensed. It was a stone tablet. This stone tablet was 10 meters tall and it floated above Lu Ming's head. There seemed to be words on the tablet, but they were hazy and unclear. This is my second bloodline? It's actually a stone tablet? Is it a special bloodline? Lu Ming thought to himself. Bas! The stone tablet shook and then a silver chakra appeared. A silver chakra represented a king bloodline. A silver chakra represented a level 1 king bloodline. But it was not over yet. The stone tablet shook again and a second silver chakra appeared. Then, a third silver chakra appeared. After the third silver chakra appeared, there were no more chakras. Level 3 king bloodline. This was the final level of the second bloodline that Lu Ming had awakened. 3 silver chakras were shining and extremely dazzling. I've swallowed more than 6,000 blood refining pills and blood refining crystals. The bloodline awakened didn't disappoint me. Lu Ming revealed a faint smile. He was quite satisfied. With his talent, if he hadn't swallowed more than 6,000 blood refining pills and blood refining crystals, he could only awaken a level 9 ordinary bloodline. It would be impossible for him to reach the king bloodline. Whoosh! The second bloodline vibrated and emitted a strong attractive force. The essence of the world was absorbed by Lu Ming and turned into genuine qi. This was the king bloodline. It was extremely magical. When it was awakened, there would be a chance to crazily devour the essence of the world. After that, it would slowly calm down. I can't waste this opportunity. Lu Ming waved his hands and more than 200,000 spirit crystals appeared around him. These spiritual crystals were obtained from killing other young experts. Bang! 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 The spirit crystals exploded one after another, turning into surging energy that was constantly absorbed and refined by Lu Ming. Lu Ming's cultivation soared like a rocket. Early stage of Martial Ancestor Realm 1. However, not long after, Lu Ming's cultivation had broken through to the middle stage of Martial Ancestor Realm 1. However, this was not the limit and it was still increasing. An hour later, Lu Ming's cultivation had broken through to the peak of Martial Arts Grandmaster LV1. He was only a step away from Martial Arts Grandmaster LV2. Only then did the second bloodline calm down and stop absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Whoosh! Lu Ming took a deep breath. His eyes flickered and shot out like 2 long spears. Feeling the almost endless true qi in his body, Lu Ming smiled. However, in terms of Zhen qi, he was much stronger than before. With a thought, the second bloodline went into hiding. Humph! It's only a level 3 king class bloodline. What's there to be proud of? Watch me! Xian Yanqing, who had been observing Lu Ming's breakthrough, snorted and sat down cross-legged. He continued to refine the blood refining crystals. Lu Ming smiled and did not mind. He moved his hand and took out a jade bottle. It was the Yuan Ancient Panacea. He still had dozens of bottles with him. He planned to use the Yuan Ancient Panacea to raise his cultivation to Martial Ancestor Realm 2. He opened the jade bottle and the 9 dragons bloodline appeared. He opened his mouth and sucked in all 9 Yuan Ancient Panacea. The energy required to break through to Martial Ancestor Realm was terrifying. Even if there were too few Yuan Ancient Panacea, it would not be of much use. Lu Ming decided to swallow the entire bottle. As Lu Ming refined the Ancient Panacea, He diverted a portion of his attention to observe Xian Yanqing. An hour later, Xian Yanqing stopped refining the blood refining crystals and started to break through. With Xian Yanqing's talent, it was not a problem for her to break through to martial ancestor realm. Soon, she successfully broke through and a terrifying essence qi shot up into the sky. This essence qi was comparable to Lu Ming's and it caused a stir. The people nearby were shocked. 2 consecutive essence qi shot up into the sky and each of them was terrifying. Could there be 2 demon-like geniuses breaking through? The crowd was curious. Boom! After Xian Yanqing's cultivation broke through, she started to awaken her second bloodline. Blood light shot up into the sky and it was extremely dense. It almost covered a radius of a few miles. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. The blood qi was too shocking. It was 10 times more powerful than what he had done previously. No, it was more than that. Whoosh whoosh. Blood qi swept out, surging unsteadily, and a shocking pressure spread out. After a while, the blood light dissipated and a figure appeared above Xian Yanqing's head. Yes, that's right. Xian Yanqing's second bloodline was a woman. She was more than 10 meters tall and had a curvaceous figure. She was wearing a black veil and sitting cross-legged on a black lotus. The woman's appearance was unclear, but her figure was extremely good. She exuded a seductive aura and she was like a demoness. The most terrifying and shocking thing for Lu Ming was that there were 7 silver chakras on the woman's body. Level 7 King Class Bloodline. Lu Ming's eyes almost popped out and he was dumbfounded. He was too shocked. It was extremely difficult to awaken a King Class bloodline. Duanmu Lin, who was known as the once-in-a-thousand-years genius of the Duanmu family and would surpass Feng Wuji in the future, had only awakened a level 2 King Class bloodline. Usually, geniuses like the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun tribe would only awaken a level 1 King Class bloodline. Some might even awaken a level 1 King Class bloodline. This showed how terrifying a level 7 King Class bloodline was. Genius. This was a real genius. Xian Yanqing didn't refine as many blood refining pills and blood refining crystals as Lu Ming, but the bloodline he awakened was much stronger than Lu Ming's. This was a real monster. Even if Xian Yanqing didn't refine the blood refining crystals, he could still awaken a level 5 King Class bloodline. At this time, Xian Yanqing opened his eyes and shouted, "Swallow!" Whoosh whoosh. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth rushed towards Xian Yanqing crazily. The spiritual qi within dozens of miles was drawn, and there seemed to be a gust of wind in the air. What's going on? I can't absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth is controlled by someone. Exclamations were heard from dozens of miles away. At the same time, Xian Yanqing waved his hand and piles of spiritual crystals appeared. There were hundreds of thousands of them. They all exploded and turned into a sea of spiritual qi, pouring into Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing's cultivation rose rapidly. Early level 1 martial arts grandmaster realm, middle level 1 martial arts grandmaster realm. Soon, he reached the peak of level 1 martial arts grandmaster realm, but he didn't stop there. With a boom, he broke through the bottleneck and reached level 2 martial arts grandmaster realm. He continued to rise until he reached the peak of level 2 martial arts grandmaster realm. Xian Yanqing's cultivation didn't stop rising. This is too terrifying. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. When he broke through, he made use of his newly awakened bloodline to reach the peak of level 1 martial arts grandmaster realm. It was extremely rare and was equivalent to years of hard work for ordinary people. However, Xian Yanqing was even more terrifying. He directly reached the peak of level 2 martial arts grandmaster realm. This was a level 7 King Class bloodline. Chapter 284. At that moment, Xian Yanqing stood up and looked at Lu Ming proudly. What do you think? A mere level 3 king bloodline? What's the big deal? Humph. Now take my blow. Xian Yanqing shouted and struck with her palm. A black palm print was formed and its power was extremely terrifying. Human Dao Palm. Lu Ming also struck with his palm. Genuine qi surged and formed a huge palm print. It collided with Xian Yanqing's black palm print. There was a loud explosion. Both of them trembled and took a step back. You've broken through to martial ancestor realm 2nd level? Xian Yanqing exclaimed. Of course. Lu Ming laughed. Before Xian Yanqing had broken through, he had swallowed 20 bottles of a Yuan ancient panaceas and broken through to martial ancestor realm 2nd level. His cultivation was now at the early stage of martial ancestor realm 2nd level. Humph. Don't think that I can't step on you just because you've broken through to martial ancestor realm 2nd level. Xian Yanqing shouted and a bloody light surged on her body. She was about to unleash her bloodline. Roar! With a loud roar, the golden-eyed blood zombie appeared beside Xian Yanqing and stared at her with its fangs wide open. Xian Yanqing screamed and hurriedly retreated. Lu Ming, you're shameless. So what if I'm shameless? You've been saying that you're going to step on me. Today, I'll do it. Hee attack. Lu Ming sneered coldly. With a light shout, he pounced on Xian Yanqing at high speed. At the same time, the golden-eyed blood zombie roared and pounced on Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing was shocked. A bloody light flashed on her body and she was about to unleash her bloodline. However, the golden-eyed blood zombie pounced on her and roared. A bloody light rushed towards Xian Yanqing and interrupted her bloodline. At the same time, Lu Ming pounced on Xian Yanqing and struck out with his palm. A palm force entered Xian Yanqing's dantian and temporarily sealed her true qi. Then, Lu Ming took advantage of the situation to pull Xian Yanqing into his arms and threw her onto the ground. Lu Ming's body was pressed tightly against Xian Yanqing's. Get out of my way! Xian Yanqing screamed and struggled with all his might. What are you shouting for? As soon as Lu Ming exerted his strength, Xian Yanqing's Zhen Qi was temporarily sealed. How could he still resist? He was tightly pressed down by Lu Ming, unable to move at all. Lu Ming, let go of me, or I won't let you go. Xian Yanqing shouted. Now that you've completely fallen into my hands, you still dare to threaten me. It seems that I was too honest before. Spanking your butt. Lu Ming let out a lascivious laugh and slapped down. This slap directly hit Xian Yanqing's plump and perky buttocks. Pa! A very loud sound rang out. Xian Yanqing's body suddenly trembled as if she had been electrocuted. Her whole body stiffened, and a pair of beautiful big eyes stared blankly at Lu Ming. But Lu Ming didn't have the slightest intention of stopping. With a beauty in his arms, it would be a lie to say that he didn't have any reaction. Lu Ming couldn't help but reach out a hand and wander around Xian Yanqing's body. Lu Ming, I hate you. Do it. I must trample you under my feet. Xian Yanqing's whole body went soft, and waves of inexplicable feelings rippled in her heart. She gritted her teeth and cursed in a low voice, looking as if she was at his mercy. However, as she cursed and scolded, tears streamed down her face. At this time, Lu Ming was really at a loss. He hurriedly let go of Xian Yanqing and said, Hey, what are you crying for? I haven't done anything yet. But Xian Yanqing's crying was like a river that had opened the floodgates. It couldn't be stopped at all. She cried so sadly and pitifully. Her tears streamed down like strings, dripping to the ground like pearls. It was as if there was a great grievance that she wanted to vent through this crying. Lu Ming was tongue-tied. He felt as if he had done something wrong. But he hadn't done anything yet. So, he could only accompany her on the side. After a long while, Xian Yanqing stopped crying. She stared blankly at Lu Ming for a long time, then suddenly gritted her teeth and said, Humph, Lu Ming, I'll let you off for now. One day, I'll trample you under my feet. This again? Lu Ming was completely speechless. I'm leaving. Are you coming or not? Lu Ming asked. Humph, of course I'm coming. Don't even think about escaping. Xian Yanqing snorted coldly and followed Lu Ming closely. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. The two of them left the stone forest. Of course, the golden-eyed blood zombie was also with them. But Lu Ming took out a very large black robe and a bamboo hat for the golden-eyed blood zombie to wear. Otherwise, it would be too conspicuous. The two of them chose a direction at random and walked forward. On the way, they met a few martial artists who didn't know what to do, but Lu Ming casually dealt with them. 2 hours later. Dong! Suddenly, a bell rang from afar, echoing between heaven and earth. It was unknown how far the bell came from, but it sounded like it was ringing in their ears. What a strange bell. What does it mean? Lu Ming was curious. Xian Yanqing shook her head and didn't say anything. Let's go and take a look, Lu Ming said. After saying that, his genuine qi surged. Lu Ming soared into the sky and flew in the direction of the bell. After entering the martial arts grandmaster realm, he could finally fly as he pleased. Xian Yanqing and the golden-eyed blood zombie moved and followed Lu Ming. Dong. After a while, the second bell rang. It sounded similar to the previous bell, but Lu Ming and the rest were clearly closer to the location of the bell. Lu Ming and the rest continued to fly in the direction of the bell. After a while, the third bell rang. It sounded the same as the previous two bells, as if it was ringing in their ears. Swoosh, swoosh. From time to time, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Not only Lu Ming and the rest, but the others also heard the bell and headed in the direction of the bell. Not long after, the fourth bell rang. At this moment, Lu Ming and the rest saw a huge mountain. This mountain towered into the clouds and was incomparably majestic. And the sound of the bell came from the top of this mountain. When they arrived at the foot of the mountain, they found that the mountain was blocked by a light screen and couldn't be entered. At this moment, hundreds of young powerhouses had gathered at the foot of the mountain. Swoosh! A sword ray flashed and a young man in a swordsman's robe stopped in the air. Everyone was shocked. Someone recognized him as Duan Ling of the 9 Heroes of Yingyue. After that, experts appeared from time to time. In addition to Duan Ling, 2 of the 50 supernovas of the Blood Zhao Empire also appeared. Dong, dong. The sound of the bell was long and drawn out. Every few moments, it would ring once. When the 8th bell rang, a young man with a demonic aura walked in the air with his hands behind his back. Yang Liuji is here, someone exclaimed. Even geniuses like the Blood Zhao 50 supernovas had grave expressions on their faces. The geniuses on the Emperor leaderboard were too strong. At this moment, more than 1,000 people had gathered at the foot of the mountain. Dong. After a while, the 9th bell rang. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.